As the black Dodge Durango rolled into yet another unfamiliar town, its U-Haul trailer in tow, 17-year-old Jordan Walker sat in the back seat, quietly watching the scenery pass by. Though still in his teens, Jordan had the mature appearance of someone older. His short, dark brown hair was always neatly kept, his deep brown eyes held a quiet intensity, and his tan skin shadowed by a light stubble from days of travel, without time to shave, added to his striking presence. Tall, broad-shouldered, and fit from long hours spent training with his wrestling coach, Jordan looked every bit the athlete. He'd grown close to that coach, just like he had with others before, but as always, the end of the school year meant yet another goodbye. By his count, this was the 5th mentor he'd had to leave behind. He made an effort to stay in touch with some of the friends he'd met along the way, but it was never the same as being there in person. And while he hated to admit it, leaving behind a few girls who had meant something to him hurt even more. With his good looks and quiet charm, Jordan rarely went unnoticed in school hallways, but he'd always treated others with respect, thanks to the values instilled in him by his parents. Not long ago, he had even shared a meaningful relationship with a girl he truly cared about, only to be uprooted once again. That loss stung the most. He couldn't help but feel bitter about his father's career, which constantly pulled them from place to place. Bryce Walker worked as a contract electrical engineer, often relocating due to project completions or unexpected layoffs. The job took them across the country and sometimes even abroad. Reflecting on it all, Jordan let out a deep sigh and rested his head against the seat. "What's wrong, Jordan?" His mother, Marina, asked gently. "Are you okay?" "No, I'm not," Jordan replied, his frustration rising just as his father pulled into the driveway of their new home. "I'm tired of moving all the time, Mom. I'm 17, and I can't even remember being in one place for more than a year. Every time I start to settle and make friends, feel normal, I have to start over again. I'm just done with it." "I know how you feel, Jordan, but this time it's different. Your dad has a promising new job, one with many benefits. He's finally been hired for a permanent management position at a new design firm, and then we will never have to move again. I promise." "Well, okay. I guess I'll have to take your word for it," Jordan said with a slightly irritated tone. "I don't know how much more I can take of this." "I hope you're right." "I'm sure of it," she said reassuringly. "Come on, let's go in and see our new house." Marina and Bryce exited the front of the truck while Jordan, feeling downcast and staring at the driveway, stepped out from the back passenger side door. When he looked up, he noticed a woman jogging with her dog. He paused, struck by her presence. She appeared to be around his mother's age, perhaps a year or two younger, with a kind and striking face. Her skin was smooth and fair, and her shoulder-length brown hair framed her face as she jogged. Her bright green eyes caught the light, giving her an energetic, friendly look. Dressed in casual athletic wear suited for the warm August day, she moved with an easy confidence. As she approached, she stopped at the mailbox next door, where Patterson was written. Then she noticed the new neighbors and gave them a wave before walking over to introduce herself. Jordan felt his nerves stir as she approached, unsure of what to say. "Hello there. Welcome to Corbett Ridge. I'm Lila Patterson, and this is Jake, my best friend in the world," she said as her golden retriever sat next to her, panting from his walk, but then got up to greet the newcomers himself. Bryce came over to the passenger side of the truck and shook her hand. "It's very nice to meet you. I'm Bryce Walker. This is my wife Marina and our son Jordan." Jordan kept his head down, afraid he would say or do something that would cause him to embarrass himself. Marina then nudged him in the side and told him to say hello to their new neighbor. When he looked up at Lila to greet her, she looked at him with the same odd expression he had when he saw her for the first time. She was as struck by his good looks as he was with hers. They briefly made eye contact, and in that instant she noticed it. She had seen it only once before, in her late husband. It had been that look, the look of someone who had absolute confidence in himself, that had lured her to him. He very quickly revealed himself to be every woman's fantasy lover, as well as the most sensitive and romantic man she had ever met. Whatever it was that had made her act on it, be it gut instinct or just a whim, she had never once regretted her decision to take him as her husband. And now, after 3 years, she had suddenly seen it again, in Jordan. She had had some experience with younger men hitting on her, and despite being flattered by the attention, she could always tell that these were your run-of-the-mill horny boys who had only one thing on their minds and no plans for the kind of serious relationship she might have been looking for if the right person had presented himself. But Jordan struck her the same way her husband had when they'd first met, probably as horny as any other boy, but perhaps just mature enough to be thinking about that special someone he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. Despite the obvious attraction to her betrayed by the way he looked at her, Jordan's reluctance to immediately start hitting on her also betrayed the kind of sensitivity so many of his peers seemed to lack. This was important to her because her husband had spoiled her with it. Yes, she was older. Yes, she had already carved out her niche in the world. But when she considered that even the older men were scarcely different from their younger counterparts, what would be the benefit of writing Jordan off because of his age? Had he been any younger, certainly. But he looked like a legal adult, and she was interested. Considering that she was looking for more than just sex, she felt almost guilty as her eyes gave his body a once-over and found it to be remarkably acceptable. Wearing a red muscle shirt and black denim shorts, she was somewhat amazed that someone as young as him could appeal to her the way he did. Noticing herself getting lost in him, she quickly forced the issue from her mind. "Well, it's nice to meet all of you," she said. "I have been keeping an eye on your house for you in anticipation of your arrival. Let me know if there's anything you need, and I will be more than happy to help." "Thank you," Marina said. "We appreciate that. This seems like a nice neighborhood. I just hope everyone here is as kind as you. Oh, you'll love it here. It's very quiet. And yes, the neighbors are very friendly. I'm sure you will be quite happy here. Well, I'm gonna run, so I'll leave you to your moving in. Have fun, and hopefully I'll see you soon." "Thank you again, Lila," Marina said as she shook her hand. "Maybe you can come over for coffee or something as soon as we are settled, and we can get to know each other." "I'd like that," Lila responded. She then looked at Jordan, startling him with her sudden passionate expression, and asked, "I will see you soon as well?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm sure you will." Jordan watched Lila as she walked back to her house with Jake. He felt no guilt as he looked at her behind, which was just as beautiful as the rest of her body. She glanced back at him briefly and noticed him staring at her, which made her smile and slip him a noticeable wink. That caused Jordan's mood to lighten significantly as he joined his parents in beginning the long, tedious task of moving all their things into the house. As he and his parents entered their new home, boxes in hand, a newfound confidence swept over him, and he soon felt as though things were going to work out just fine. He went upstairs to find his room, which was quite a bit nicer than he was used to, considering that most of the places that he had lived in were just temporary, so there was never really a need for much decorating. The company his father worked for had provided the furniture for the house, one of the many perks of his new job, so all Jordan had to do was unpack his personal belongings and figure out where he wanted to hang his Beatles posters. He walked over to the window and lifted the blinds to let some sunlight into the room. He was pleased to suddenly notice that from his window, he could see into Lila's bedroom window. She was getting ready, and Jordan stood there for a moment, taking in the view. "Man, this day just keeps getting better," he thought to himself, feeling grateful for the peaceful new environment. After taking a deep breath, he focused on unpacking his things, eager to settle into the new house and make it his own. Looking out the window again at Lila's house, he thought, "Oh yeah, I'm going to enjoy it here." As Marina prepared breakfast, she noticed the time and called out to her son, "Come on, Jordan, time to get up. You'll be late." Jordan looked at the clock on his nightstand and groaned. It was the morning of September 6th, the first day of his senior year at a new school. It had only been 2 weeks since they moved, and he was still tired from all the packing and settling in, as well as trying to find a part-time job to help pay for the maintenance of his 1997 Honda Accord, which he had bought with the money he had saved since he was 12. Trying to shake the grogginess from his mind, he dragged himself out of bed and took a quick shower. After a half hour, he was ready and made his way downstairs, where he found a surprise waiting for him in the dining room. "Happy birthday, Jordan," Marina exclaimed. On the table was a cake with 18 lit candles and a large wrapped box. Surprised, Jordan walked over and hugged his mother. "Wow, this is really cool." "Thanks, Mom," he said with a smile. "You're welcome. Your father really wanted to be here, but he had to be to work at 5, so he told me to tell you he hopes you have a great birthday and that he is very proud of you. We both know how hard all of this has been on you, so we hope that this will make you feel much better." Little did Marina know that Jordan had an extracurricular activity that did make him feel better. The view from his bedroom window was enough to make any young man happy. "Well, let's get down to business here. Make a wish and blow out the candles," Marina said excitedly. Jordan thought about it, and the first thing that came into his mind was Lila. He was disappointed that he hadn't had the time to really talk to her at length since that first day. But then again, he had been pretty busy with moving and such. Now that things are more relaxed around the house, he made a wish that all of that would change and that he would be seeing much more of her. Almost as soon as he had blown out the candles, he heard the doorbell ring. "I wonder who that could be this early in the morning," his mother said as she walked past him toward the living room. She opened the door, and much to Jordan's delight, it was Lila on the other side holding some homemade coffee cake. "Good morning, Marina. I was taking Jake for his morning walk and saw your lights on, so I went and grabbed this cake from home and came over. Is that offer for coffee still good?" Lila said with a smile, which became even wider as she looked past Marina and saw Jordan standing by the dining room table. Secretly thinking the gods must have been smiling on him, Jordan felt they must have heard his wish and immediately decided it was worth granting. Lila was dressed more conservatively this time, wearing a pair of Tommy Hilfiger jeans, a bright yellow t-shirt, and Nikes, but her beauty still captivated him. It seemed to him that no matter what he saw her in, be it workout gear, jeans, or even an old pair of sweatpants, she was still more exquisite than any woman he had ever laid eyes on. Absolutely. You've actually come at a perfect time. We're having a little celebration in here. Please come in, Marina said as she opened the door for her guest. Lila looked over at the cake and present on the table. Well, look at all of this. Someone's birthday, I see, she said as she counted the candles and immediately concluded it was Jordan's birthday, his 18th, and she realized that now he was truly a man in every sense. Marina thanked Lila for the coffee cake and took it to the kitchen. Lila then looked at Jordan with a lustful expression. Well, happy birthday, Jordan. I hope all of your wildest dreams come true, she said as she gazed at him, slowly taking in his romantic eyes and the scent of Drakkar coming from his hair and clothing. Even though today was the day that he was legally a man, his age was still somewhat of a concern to her. Nonetheless, her heart was pounding as he spoke to her. Thank you, Miss Patterson. If the last 2 weeks have been any indication, then I'm sure they will. Please, call me Lila. We're friends now, right? Okay, Lila it is then, Jordan said as he took her hand into his and kissed it. We are friends. Jordan couldn't tear his eyes away from her gorgeous visage. He was certainly attracted to her, but wasn't sure if he wanted to make his move just yet. They had spoken on a few occasions just to say hello, but he could see over the last 2 weeks she may be showing an interest in him beyond just a few passing words. He simply couldn't take his mind off her no matter how hard he tried. There was something about her, something unique, that he was drawn to. Her age had crossed his mind as well, but he felt that if he stood any chance with her then it would be something he'd be willing to overlook. Physically she was every young man's dream, but he felt there must be more to her than just good looks. That was what he hoped to discover the more they got to know each other. Her skin on her hand was as soft as a newborn's, so he felt that if her hands were that soft he could only imagine what the rest of her body must feel like. He soon started to move his hand up her arm, feeling the smoothness of her skin. The sheer electricity of his touch was enough to make her want to succumb to him right there, and came very close to pulling his lips into hers and surprising his tongue with a French kiss that would have brought him to his knees. She snapped out of her fantasy and realized where she was when she noticed Marina coming back in from the kitchen carrying a tray with 2 plates of cake for herself and Lila, 1 plate of bacon and eggs for Jordan, and 3 cups of coffee. Okay, Jordan, eat up. It's a big day for you, Marina said as she passed him his plate. Lila sat down next to him at the table and took her plate and cup and passed Jordan's coffee to him. Here you go, birthday boy, she said teasingly. Jordan thanked her with a knowing smile. Your home is just lovely, Marina, Lila said, trying to compose herself after almost ravaging Jordan right there in the dining room. It's so beautifully decorated. Where did you ever find such wonderful pieces of art? Actually, Jordan is the one to be given the credit for finding them. He has such a knack for adding just the right touches to a room. He's a wonderful decorator and quite handy around the house when it comes to repairs. He'll make some lucky woman a great husband someday. Jordan was feeling a little embarrassed by his mother's statements and started to blush. Lila found that to be all the more endearing. Well, that's good to know. I may have to call on him sometime for help around my house. I haven't been able to do much repair work since my husband passed away. He was always the one who took care of those sorts of things. Oh my, I'm so sorry to hear that, Marina said. I had no idea you were widowed. How long has it been? 3 years. He was an officer on the local police force. He was called to a robbery at a convenience store and was shot by the suspect. They provide vests for the officers, but he was shot in the head, and unfortunately there's no protection for that. He died instantly. He was only 42. As Jordan was listening to this, he started to feel guilty about the way he had been sneaking peeks at her through his bedroom window and indulging in his own erotic fantasies at her expense. Lila seemed like a very caring, compassionate woman, and he was genuinely worried about her. I'm sorry to hear that, too. That's tough. Have you been okay by yourself since that happened? He asked. Lila continued with her story, though touched by his concern. It was rough at first, but the other officers have been extraordinarily kind to me since his passing. Gary was a 21-year veteran of the force, so they have been able to provide me with some financial assistance by granting me his pension. They paid for his funeral expenses, and the life insurance paid off the mortgage on the house, as well as my car loan, so that lifted a huge weight off of my shoulders. He was very well liked and respected at the precinct, so I was really moved at how they stepped up and helped me. Luckily, his pension is large enough to pay the bills and then some, so I've been fortunate enough to not have the need to return to work. Lila saw the sad expression on Jordan's face after she told her story. She didn't want to see him feeling that way, so she decided to change the subject. But enough about me. This is a special day. Let's see what's in the box, she said. Jordan smiled at her and walked over to the other side of the table where his present was waiting for him. As he unwrapped it, he noticed the box was from Macy's, his favorite store. There was a leather jacket he saw there that he desperately wanted, but it was $400, way out of his price range considering he had already used his savings to buy his car. When he opened the box, he gasped in excitement. It was the same leather jacket. Whoa, Mom, how did you know I wanted this? Better yet, how could you even afford this? Jordan asked, thrilled by his surprise. I told you that your dad's new job was promising. He received a pretty sizable sign-on bonus, and when I went shopping for your gift, I saw the jacket and thought to myself, that has Jordan written all over it, Marina said proudly. Jordan ran over to his mom and hugged her tightly, thanking her over and over again. Lila's interest in Jordan was sealed when she saw the close relationship he shared with his mother. She could see that he was a sensitive, loving man who knew how to treat a lady, much the way her husband was with her. This warmed her heart, and she shared in his excitement. Let's see how it looks, she said. Jordan put the jacket on and looked at himself in the full-length mirror that was hanging by the door in the living room. Lila couldn't believe her eyes. She didn't think he could be any more handsome than he already was, but that jacket did seem like it was made just for him. She was speechless as she stared at him, which he noticed in the mirror. What do you think, Lila? He said, forgetting that his mother was unaware of the conversation he had minutes ago where Lila told him he could call her by her first name. However, his mother was so thrilled by her son's reaction to his gift that his slip of the tongue didn't seem to faze her. What can I say? You're a heartbreaker. Lila laughed. Jordan looked at her lovingly. Not yours. Never yours, he said softly enough that his mother couldn't hear. Lila's heart simply melted. Jordan then looked at the clock and noticed it was 7:15. He had 15 minutes to get to school, so he'd better get a move on. Luckily, the school was in walking distance. I gotta get going, first day of school and all, he said to her, then yelled, Mom, I'll see you later. Thanks again for everything. You're welcome, sweetie. Have a good day, Marina said as she walked back to the kitchen. Jordan looked at Lila and motioned for her to walk out with him. Marina, I'll be right back. I forgot to do something at the house, Lila said. Okay, you don't have to knock when you come back. Just let yourself in, Marina said as she started to clear the dishes from the table. Lila said nothing as she quickly followed Jordan outside, where he took her by the hand and led her around the back of the house. With no word spoken, he started to run his fingers through her hair and looked softly into her eyes. You're so beautiful, Lila. A woman as beautiful as you should never be alone, he said, his voice quivering with sadness from hearing what she had been through these last few years. Lila was moved by his words, considering how men that she had met since her husband died hadn't shown the same type of concern that he had, being more interested in just getting her into bed. Jordan then took her face in his hands and, after a long, loving gaze into her eyes, kissed her gently on the lips, then on her forehead, and gave her a big hug. I wish I had known it was your birthday. I would have gotten you a gift, Lila whispered in Jordan's ear as they embraced. Sweetheart, you already have, Jordan said. Lila smiled as he gave her one last kiss and started on his way to school. He turned around to look at her one more time, waving as he walked backwards, not wanting to take his eyes off of her. She waved back at him as she walked to her house, savoring the moments they had just spent together, longing for the next time they would meet. Starting over in a new school can prove to be a difficult challenge for most kids, but for Jordan, it was second nature. He had done it so many times in the past, it was effortless to him. He quickly made some new friends, joined the wrestling team, and had a new crop of young ladies circling him everywhere he went. He was rapidly becoming one of the most popular students at school, but there was one thing that was different this time. Jordan wasn't interested in any of this anymore. When he was younger, he looked forward to participating in the things that the typical high school kid would do. Hanging out with his friends, going to parties where he would hope to make out with some cheerleader, and most of all wrestling, which he had been doing since he was a freshman. One might think this sudden disinterest would be common of a depressed, troubled teen. But in Jordan's case, it was quite the opposite. The only thing in his life that he was the slightest bit interested in was Lila. He spent every waking moment thinking about her. How the taste of her kisses still lingered in his mouth hours after his lips met hers. How much seeing her smile at him as she stood there in their special place behind his house when he left for school every morning simply made his day. He was the happiest he had ever been in his life. But at the same time, he was becoming increasingly frustrated by the fact that he could only see her secretly for a few minutes in the morning, when all he really wanted to do was spend the day with her in his arms. This was something he felt he had to mention to her. After school, Jordan was planning on going straight to Lila's house to discuss how they could possibly make this happen. But as he started to make his way over, he heard his mother's voice coming from his front door. "Jordan, I need you for a minute," Marina exclaimed before she let the screen door slam behind her. He ran over to the house, worried that there may be an emergency of some sort. "Are you okay, Mom? Is there something wrong?" "No, there's nothing wrong. I just need for you to help me with my bags. Could you please carry these out to the truck for me?" Marina asked as Bryce walked past her to take his own luggage out to put them in the back seat. "Where are you going?" Jordan asked. "Your father has been called out of town at the last minute on a business trip to Detroit, and he wants me to go with him. We will be gone for about 7 days. Do you think you can manage here by yourself?" "Yeah, sure. I should be okay," Jordan said, at first thinking how lonely he would be in the house by himself, but then quickly realized what this meant. He thought to himself, "All right, now I can finally have some alone time with Lila without the rinse breathing down my neck." Bryce came back in with his wallet in his hand. He took out $200 and handed it to Jordan. "This should be more than enough to cover whatever you may need for the week," Bryce said as Jordan already started pondering how he can spend it on the things he would need to make a special day with Lila. Marina chimed in. "We have already let Ms. Patterson know that we will be away for a while, so she will be keeping an eye on you." Jordan's eyes lit up. He pursed his lips to try and keep from laughing and literally started to push his parents out the door. "Okay, you too. You don't want to be late for your flight, so you better get going," Jordan said as he excitedly rushed them out while carrying his mother's bags to the truck. He threw them in the back seat as if they each only weighed a pound and started to close the front passenger side door before his mother was all the way in. "Watch it, Jordan, will you?" Marina said with a laugh. "I know you can't wait to get rid of us for a week, but at least let me get in before you close the door." "Sorry, Mom," Jordan said with a half smile. "It's all right," she said with a chuckle. "Now, there's should enough food to last you, but if you need more then you have the money your father gave you." Yeah, sure, fine, whatever. "I'll be seeing you," Jordan said, thinking his parents couldn't leave fast enough. As soon as he saw the truck pull out of sight, Jordan quickly ran over to Lila's house. No sooner did he reach the top step on her porch, the door flew open, and Lila stood there with a wickedly playful look on her face. This drove Jordan to run in, throw his arms around her, and spin her around a few times as they both laughed joyously. "Finally, I get you all to myself for a whole week," Lila exclaimed happily. "Is this really happening?" Jordan asked with a most gleeful tone in his voice. "I have been waiting for this for the last month, and it's finally happening. Once again, my prayers have been answered, and now it's just you and me." He took a moment to catch his breath and soak in Lila's gorgeous face. He felt as if his heart was going to burst as he stroked her cheek and leaned in to give her a long, passionate kiss. Her knees began to feel weak as she felt his tongue enter her mouth, and she responded just as passionately. This was something they had both wanted, not only for the last month, but it was as though they had wanted this their whole lives, with each other. It was Friday, so Jordan had the entire weekend to spend with Lila, just the two of them alone. He asked her if there was anything special she had in mind. "Honey, all I want is you here with me," Lila said. "There's nothing else that we could do that would make me happier than to just have you wake up next to me. I want to cook for you, watch old movies and laugh with you, and, if this isn't too forward, make love to you every chance I get." Jordan was about to jump out of his skin. He was overwhelmed by those words and pulled her close to him. "Angel face, you are about to have a weekend you will never forget," he said as he held her tightly, enchanted by the scent of her hair and feel of her body pressed against his. "I have to run over to grab a few things and make sure the doors are locked at the house. Then I'm all yours. Hurry back," Lila said as she happily proceeded to the kitchen to look for something to make for dinner. Jordan rushed back over to his house and ran upstairs to his room. He found his overnight bag in his closet and packed it with his toothbrush, deodorant, and cologne. He looked in his shower for his shampoo and body wash and quickly threw them into the bag as well. Searching through his dresser drawers, he hurriedly threw in whatever clothes he could find and ran back down the stairs. Along the way, he remembered the large cherry wood wine rack his parents had in the basement. He went down to discover it was filled to the top with wines from all over the world. He took 3 bottles of what he thought would be the best and gently placed them in the bag, being careful not to break them. After a quick once-over of the house, he exited the front door, locked it, and then ran back over to Lila's. As he entered the house, he could already smell the aroma of steaks marinated in teriyaki sauce cooking on the broiler that Lila had on her stove. He put his bag down on the floor and took out a bottle of wine before making his way to the kitchen. Seeing Lila cooking for him gave Jordan a sense of what it must be like to be a married man, coming home from a hard day's work to find the woman he loves making his dinner for him. This gave him a wonderful feeling inside. He stood at the entrance arch to the kitchen and said, "I'm back, sweetheart. I missed you already," Lila said as she flipped the steaks and walked over to him. Jordan showed her the wine, which just so happened to be one of her favorite brands. She thanked him for thinking of it and kissed him. "This will be perfect," she said as she took it to the counter and took out a corkscrew from the drawer. She opened the wine and poured glasses for the both of them. As they held up their glasses, Lila proposed a toast. "To an unforgettable weekend," she said with a mischievous glint in her eye. Jordan smiled as they both took a sip from their glasses. He knew in his heart that this was indeed going to be a weekend made in heaven. After dinner, Jordan sat back contentedly in his chair. "That was the most outstanding dinner I have ever had, angel face," he said as he stroked Lila's hand. "Not only are you the most gorgeous creature on the planet, you are one fantastic cook." "Thank you. You're very welcome," Lila said. "Would you care for dessert?" "Just a kiss would be enough to make this dinner complete," he said. "I can't think of anything sweeter than that." Lila leaned over and gingerly kissed Jordan on the lips at first, but then it soon started to become more steamy. They kissed for what seemed like an eternity before finally coming apart to gaze upon each other once again. "My God, Lila, you are absolutely breathtaking," Jordan said. "I could just sit and look at you all night and never once blink or turn my eyes away. Forget the Venus de Milo. You are a true beauty, a living, breathing work of art." Lila's heart skipped a beat as she was listening to his beautiful words. She found herself mesmerized by the motions his mouth was making as he spoke and couldn't tear her eyes away from his perfect lips. She yearned for the next time they would meet hers, but for now she was starting to look forward to the rest of the evening. "Sweetheart, I'm going to go ahead and clean up. Why don't you go into the living room and make yourself at home? Perhaps you can choose a movie we can watch together?" Jordan offered to help her, but Lila refused. The only thought in her mind was to make him not have a worry in the world. As Lila was clearing the table and loading the dishwasher, Jordan started to look for the perfect movie. Her DVD collection was vast, with something from every genre imaginable. But for this occasion, Jordan was looking for nothing but romance. He soon found what he was looking for. "Hey Lila, how about Titanic?" "Oh, that's perfect. My favorite," Lila exclaimed. Jordan took this opportunity to light some candles in the living room and turned off the lamps on the end tables. It was a chilly October night, so he took the Afghan from the back of her recliner and put it on the couch, hoping for her to snuggle under it with him as they watched the movie. After everything was cleaned up, Lila emerged from the kitchen with a large bowl of popcorn and a couple of sodas. "Okay, I'm ready when you are," Lila said as she sat on the couch, putting the bowl and sodas on the coffee table in front of them. Jordan put the movie in and sat down next to her. He immediately put his arm around her and offered to share the Afghan with her, which she happily agreed to. He took the bowl and sat it on his lap and kissed her on the side of her head as he pressed play on the remote control. He felt so comfortable with her, as if he had known her his whole life. This felt real to him, like it was meant to be. As the opening title of the movie played, Jordan pulled Lila closer to him and held her with a deep understanding that this could be the woman he could see himself spending the rest of his life with. "I just love the story of Jack and Rose in this film, don't you?" Lila asked. "It's so romantic how they meet, knowing that certain obstacles could very well keep them apart, but they managed to fight back against them and fall in love. It was just too bad they had to have Jack die at the end." Jordan's mind began to wander as he thought about how the story he had been hearing mirrored his own relationship with Lila. He felt that the challenges in their relationship might be his parents. But then again, he was 18, legally an adult now, and he felt they no longer had a say in his life or who he could spend time with. Another thought crossed his mind. He knew he was falling for Lila, but wasn't sure if it was too soon to say it aloud. He decided that when the moment felt right, he would tell her those 3 meaningful words, hoping she would feel the same way. He had never said "I love you" to anyone before, and it made him nervous, but this time felt different. He truly believed it could be something lasting. After a moment of deep reflection, he snapped back to the present and began feeding her some popcorn. Lila giggled as she took a few pieces, enjoying the moment with him. As they spent more time together, their connection grew stronger, and Jordan found himself captivated by the way Lila was able to make him feel at ease. She looked into his eyes, sensing a deeper bond between them. "I think it's time we show each other just how much we mean to one another," she said softly, her voice filled with warmth. Jordan was quiet for a moment, overwhelmed by the depth of what she had just said. He embraced her, their kiss gentle, yet filled with emotion. Their hands explored each other's faces and hair as they held each other close. In that moment, Jordan felt his heart swell with love for Lila, realizing just how deeply he had fallen for her. As the kiss ended, Lila stood up, gently taking Jordan by the hand and leading him to the bedroom. The soft light from a lamp cast a peaceful glow over the room as they sat together, and Lila smiled down at him, running her fingers through his hair. "I want to share something special with you," she whispered, her voice filled with tenderness. Jordan stood up, their eyes locking, and he kissed her again. He could feel the deep emotional connection between them, And he knew this wasn't just about physical closeness, it was about expressing the bond they had cultivated. "I've been wanting this since the moment we met," Lila said softly, her voice filled with emotion. "I need you." They sat together, both of them overwhelmed by the intimacy of the moment. Jordan pulled her close, their hearts beating in sync as they shared a peaceful silence, basking in the warmth of their love. He had never felt so connected to someone before, and in that moment, he knew he wanted to express his feelings. After a while, as they lay together, Jordan lifted his head to look into her eyes and said, "I love you, Lila." Lila smiled, taking his hand in hers and kissing it gently. "I love you too, sweetheart," she replied, her heart full. Jordan's heart soared as they shared a tender kiss, filled with affection and mutual love. They stayed wrapped in each other's arms, falling asleep contentedly, knowing they had something special between them. "Good night, my love." "Sweet dreams," Lila whispered as she held him close. "Good night, angel face," Jordan replied with a soft kiss on her forehead, drifting off to sleep with thoughts of her filling his mind. The sunlight streaming through Lila's bedroom window woke Jordan from one of the most peaceful nights of sleep he had ever had. He turned over to greet Lila with a kiss, but was surprised to find she wasn't beside him. For a moment, worry crept in until the smells of fresh brewed coffee and French toast wafted from the kitchen. Just as he was about to get up, Lila walked in with a tray for both of them. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Lila said, placing the tray in front of him before sitting beside him on the bed. "Are you hungry?" "I am, but what I really want is a kiss from my angel face. That would be the best way to start my day." Lila leaned over and kissed him, the same warmth in her touch that he had felt the night before. "Wow, forget breakfast, let's just stay like this." Jordan laughed, playfully nudging the tray off the bed. Lila laughed and said, "Oh no, you eat. You'll need your energy for what I have planned for later." She sat down next to Jordan, and they enjoyed their breakfast together. "So, what do you have planned for me today, gorgeous?" he asked. "Well, I figured once we've finished breakfast, we can relax for a bit. Then, maybe a shower, and just enjoy the day. After that, we'll see what we feel like doing," Lila said. I can live with that," Jordan replied with a smile. "You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." Lila looked down at her robe and then glanced in the mirror. She noticed her hair was still a bit messy from sleeping and smiled. "Really? I must look a mess. I haven't even combed my hair yet, or put on makeup." Jordan took the tray and set it on the floor, then turned back to her. "This is when you're at your most beautiful. You don't need to do a thing. I love you no matter what, whether you have bedhead or not. You could wear anything, and your beauty would still outshine anything in this world." Lila was touched by his words, and his sincere tone made her smile. "Well, maybe I should grab a trash bag from the kitchen and see if you still think I'm beautiful," she joked, pretending to get up to find one. Jordan laughed, pulling her back onto the bed. "Oh no, you don't. Let's just enjoy the day together." He tickled her gently, causing her to laugh uncontrollably. "Ooh, the beautiful goddess is ticklish," he said, grinning as he stopped to let her catch her breath. Lila laughed. "You're so mischievous." Jordan smirked. "I can show you how mischievous I can be," he said, but instead of anything else, he simply kissed her again, letting the moment linger. After a few moments, they both sat up, smiling. "So what's next?" Jordan asked, playfully. Lila looked around the room and then back at him. "Let's get outside for a walk. Maybe a trip to the park with Jake?" "It's a beautiful day." "Sounds perfect," Jordan agreed. "I'll go grab my jacket, and we can take Jake for a run." They both stood up and prepared for the day ahead, the promise of more shared moments to come. Jordan devilishly raised his eyebrows at her, called Jake over, and they started back to the house. When they arrived, Jordan looked over at his own house and said to Lila, "You know, I just realized the irony in all of this." "Irony?" Lila asked. "Yeah, when my parents and I first arrived here, I was so depressed and fed up with all of the moving we have had to do over the years because of my dad's job. I've had to leave a lot of people behind that I cared about, and the thought of doing it again to come here was just about to drive me over the edge. Then my mom told me we would never have to move again, and now that I'm with you, I'm about to make the biggest, most important move of my life. I don't think she counted on my leaving so soon." "You're not having any doubts about this, are you?" Lila asked. "Oh no, not at all," Jordan reassured her. "I want this more than anything. I just want you to know that once it's all said and done, it's you and me. Forever. This is the absolute last time I'm moving. I'm going to hold you to that," Lila said. "And I give you my solemn promise that I will make sure your life is filled with love and joy beyond anything that you could possibly conceive of. You have already done that, princess, 1,000,000 times over," he said as they embraced in the shadow of her house. Lila sat and watched Jordan as he read the Sunday paper while eating breakfast, feeling a little sad that this would be their last full day together before his return to school. She wished that he could have moved in yesterday, but she knew that it would have to wait until his parents returned and he could give them the news in person. They had discussed the night before about when would be a good time, and they both agreed that it would be the following weekend, the sooner the better. Jordan told her that his parents could object all they wanted, but he would be moving his things out regardless. She continued to thoughtfully gaze at him, her chin resting on her hand and a blissful smile on her face. As Jordan looked up from reading, he saw her expression and decided it was worth pursuing. "What's on your mind, gorgeous?" he asked as he took her hand into his. "Oh, nothing," she said as she started to caress his hand. "I'm just soaking in your handsome face. It's so wonderful to know that very soon your face will be the first thing I see when I wake up and the last thing when I go to sleep." "I understand," he said. "Right now I feel that I have to treat our love as some big secret, but knowing that we will be able to live openly means so much to me. I want to take you out, walk along the beach at night with you, go dancing with you. I want to do everything with you. Wherever I go, it would mean so much if you were there with me." "That sounds marvelous, sweetheart," Lila said. Jordan then had an idea. "How about this? Let's make a day out of doing just that. I'm going to take you out on our first official date. You wear your best dress, and I'll wear one of my suits. That means I'll have to go back to the house to get dressed, but that will give you some time to start getting yourself ready. I want everyone to know that I am in love with the most beautiful woman in the world. How does that sound?" Lila could barely contain her excitement. "It sounds fantastic," she answered with a wild smile. "And which of those things would you like to do first?" "Oh no, I can't tell you that. It's a surprise. I will tell you this, though. You will have an evening you will remember for the rest of your life. I'm looking forward to it," she said as she rose from her chair, went to his side of the table, and sat beside him, wrapping her arms around him. "Well, now I suppose we should find something to do to pass the time until our big date," Jordan said playfully as he started to unbutton his shirt. "Any suggestions?" I have no idea," she said, leaning in closer to him. "I bet you don't," he replied with a smile as he stood up and headed toward the bedroom. "However, while you're thinking of an idea, let me show you a few things I think you'll like." "Well, unless you're offering something interesting, I'm not interested." "Oh, I definitely have something interesting to show you." As mid-afternoon approached, Jordan realized it was time for him to head back to his house to prepare for their evening together. He kissed Lila goodbye and started walking to his parents' house when he heard his cell phone ring. Seeing a number he didn't recognize, he almost didn't answer, but decided to take the call anyway. Conversation ended quickly. He wasn't going to let anything or anyone stand in his way. "Hello?" he answered. "Jordan, it's Mom. Just wanted to check in and make sure you were okay," Marina said. "Oh, hey Mom. Everything here is so beyond okay," he responded, then turned to look back at Lila's house. "It's amazing. So I suppose you're enjoying your first taste of freedom, huh?" Marina asked. "More than you know," he said with a smirk. "That's good. Well, I won't keep you then. You have my cell number in case you need to reach me. Your dad and I are heading out to a movie now, so I'll call you again tomorrow. Love you. Love you too, Mom. Bye." He went into the house and went upstairs to his room to look for a suit, something that would knock Lila's socks off, and found one that would be ideal. It was the charcoal one with white pinstripes he had worn to his cousin's wedding back in March, and everyone had complimented him on how handsome he looked in it. He paired it with a blue shirt and yellow tie with blue polka dots, and wore his best pair of dress shoes to match. He stood and checked himself in the mirror to make sure everything was where it was supposed to be. He combed his hair, and even borrowed some of his mother's hairspray to keep it in place. He wanted to look absolutely perfect. He took the bottle of Angel from his dresser and sprayed it on his neck and jacket, thinking this cologne, for sure, was going to make her fall in love with him all over again. After checking himself one last time, he was satisfied with his appearance and started to head downstairs. He suddenly stopped and realized he wanted to bring her some flowers, which he would have to get from the grocery store since the florist was closed on Sundays. He jumped in his car and hurried to find a beautiful bouquet of roses. As Jordan returned and pulled up in front of Lila's house, he began to feel butterflies in his stomach. He was nervous, but not in a negative way. He wanted this evening to be a memorable one that he could tell his children about when they asked him how he met and fell in love with their mother. The thought of marrying Lila did cross his mind, and he knew the time would eventually come when he would drop to one knee and ask her to be his wife. He loved her more than life itself, and the thought of the two of them raising a family together, if she was in agreement, filled him with rapture. He exited his car and proceeded to the front door. He felt as though he shouldn't just let himself in, not knowing if Lila would be entirely ready. He breathed deeply, put the roses behind his back, and knocked on the door. When it opened, what he saw on the other side took his breath away. Lila stood there wearing a sensual black, off-the-shoulder dress with an asymmetrical hem that showed off her gorgeous legs. She had a Swarovski crystal pin attached on the neckline and black satin high-heeled sandals that buckled around the ankle. Her hair was pulled up in a French twist, showing off her diamond hoop earrings, and her radiant skin glistened from the silky shimmer lotion she had used. Jordan was spellbound. She was even more ravishing than he had envisioned. He opened his mouth slightly, but found himself unable to speak. He felt as though his heart would beat right out of his chest, and finally gained the capacity to talk. "My God, you are absolutely stunning," he said. Lila reached her hand out to his and led him inside, equally as mesmerized by how handsome he looked. He took the roses from behind his back and handed them to her. "For you, angel face," he said. Lila thanked him and kissed him slowly, the scent of his cologne confirming what Jordan was thinking as he chose it. "Are you ready for the most romantic night of your life?" he asked her. "More than ready, my love," she said as she picked up her handbag. They walked out to Jordan's car arm in arm. He opened the door for her and kissed her hand as he helped her inside. Once she was in, he shut the door and made his way to the other side. After he was inside, he started the car and leaned over to give Lila one more kiss before they drove off to enjoy their evening. Shortly after arriving in town, Jordan and his parents went out to eat at a charming Italian restaurant adjacent to a gazebo where there was live music and dancing. It was only steps away from the beach, and he thought this would be the perfect place to take Lila. Once they entered the restaurant, they were seated right away, and the hostess handed them their menus. "You can have anything you want, doll," he said. "The sky's the limit." After a few minutes had passed, their waiter came over to take their orders. Jordan wanted to order a bottle of wine, but was afraid he would be asked to see his ID, which would have embarrassed him to no end. He knew it was wrong to even try since he was underage, but he also knew how much Lila liked to occasionally have a glass with her dinner. He told her to order first, so she said she would like the eggplant parmigiana, a Caesar side salad, and a Diet Coke. Jordan looked over at her after he had heard what she wanted to drink. She winked at him, which made his worries disappear instantly. He then ordered for himself, and after the waiter left, he took her hand into his and thanked her. "You don't have to thank me for anything, honey," she said. "I had a feeling you were expecting me to order a glass of wine, but I wasn't going to have any if you couldn't. It's fine when we're at home, but I don't always have to have it when I'm out." The soft glow of the candle that sat in the middle of the table enhanced Lila's already striking features, and Jordan couldn't take his eyes off of her. "You are the most wonderful woman I have ever known," he said. "Inside and out, your beauty is beyond compare. Every other person in this room should feel as privileged as I am to have you in their company. I am the luckiest man in the world." He then took her hand, started to stroke it against his face, and said, "I love you so much." Lila's eyes began to well up. "I love you too, sweetheart," she said. As they were enjoying their dinner together, Jordan's thoughts once again turned to marriage. He pictured her walking down the aisle wearing a flowing ivory satin gown with baby's breath in her hair, meeting him at the other end to exchange vows that expressed their eternal love and commitment to one another. They both loved each other desperately, but he felt as though he may have been presumptuous in thinking that she would accept a proposal so soon in their relationship. Besides, he still hadn't heard from any of the places he interviewed with, so he didn't have the money to afford a ring just yet. Once he found a job, then he would immediately start setting a portion of his pay aside to save enough to buy her one. As they were leaving the restaurant, they heard music coming from the gazebo. There was a band playing, and Jordan couldn't resist the temptation of taking Lila over to dance with him. The music was slow and romantic. They walked over to join the other people that were already there, and Jordan went up to one of the band members to make a request. He was hoping they knew the song he wanted them to play, and was relieved when the man nodded his head in agreement. Jordan came down the steps with a broad smile on his face, held his hand out to Lila, and said, "Would you honor me with a dance?" "I would love to," Lila said. "I've just received a request from Jordan," the man said. "This one's for his angel face, with all his love." Lila looked at Jordan with an ecstatic smile, and they held each other close as the opening melody of Tracy Bird's Keeper of the Stars began to play. Their bodies swayed to the rhythm of the song, and Jordan looked into her eyes as he began to sing to her. "It was no accident, me finding you. Someone had a hand in it, long before we ever knew. Now I just can't believe you're in my life. Heaven's smiling down on me as I look at you tonight. I tip my hat to the Keeper of the Stars. He sure knew what he was doing when he joined these two hearts. I hold everything when I hold you in my arms. And I've got all I'll ever need, thanks to the Keeper of the Stars." The love Lila already had in her heart for him was about to overflow like a dam ready to burst. She could no longer hold back her emotions and kissed Jordan passionately as those around them began to watch and smile. The two lovers soon noticed this and found it amusing, starting to laugh as they resumed their dance while gazing into each other's eyes. An hour after they had finished dancing, the light of a full moon reflected on the ocean as the happy couple removed their shoes and held hands while walking along the beach barefoot. Sweetheart, what happened back there was so beautiful, Lila said. I've never had anyone sing to me before. It was so romantic. And the song brought tears to my eyes. It was like it was written just for us. I'm glad you liked it, baby, Jordan said. I've never been big on country music, but my mom borrowed my car a couple of weeks ago to run to the store and left the country station on the radio. When I got in the next time, that song came on, and it immediately reminded me of you. I downloaded it to my iPod and listened to it over and over until I knew every word. That's one of my all-time favorite songs now, because I think of you every time I hear it. Jordan, this night has turned out to be more wonderful than I could have ever imagined. There's nothing you could do that could make it more perfect, Lila said. Jordan looked at her, choked up from the overpowering love in his heart. This night had been perfect, more than he could have ever dreamed of. He felt Lila had just confirmed how much she loved him by expressing it so freely in public, so any lingering doubts he had in his mind about proposing to her went straight out the window. Ring or no ring, he was ready to take his chances. I can think of one more thing that would make this evening complete, he said as they stopped and nervously turned around to face her. Lila, my love, you are every man's dream come true. Never in my life have I felt such a deep connection with anyone as I have with you. You are my best friend, my lover, my soulmate. I don't ever want to experience life without you. So, he said as he dropped to one knee and took her hand into his. Would you make me the happiest man alive and become the one and only Mrs. Walker? Will you marry me? Lila could barely contain herself. She started to weep profusely and said with her voice shaking, Oh my God, yes. I will marry you. Jordan's eyes lit up as he jumped up and threw his arms around her. He was so blissfully happy by her response, but his mood shifted slightly when he said, I'm afraid I don't have a ring to give you yet. He had a disappointed look on his face at the thought of not being able to slip a diamond on her finger, and this nearly broke Lila's heart. Oh, sweetheart, please don't feel bad, she said. You don't need to give me a ring to show me how much you love me. But if it's that important to you, we can go out and buy one together. In fact, I'll do you one better. When we go looking, I'm going to have you pick out one for yourself. Really? He asked. I didn't think men wore engagement rings. It's a fairly new practice, but I think it's kind of cool, she said. That's the way it ought to be. And besides, with you wearing that ring, I don't have to worry about you being hit on by those pretty young things at your school. Jordan laughed and said, Angel face, you don't have anything to worry about in that respect. Those girls have nothing on you. They shared a kiss in the moonlight and continued on their walk as they talked about how wondrous their lives were going to be as husband and wife. They soon went home and celebrated by making love until the sun came up. Jordan wanted to take the day off from school to stay home with his new fiancée, but Lila insisted that he go. She didn't want him to sacrifice his education for her, and made a promise to herself that she would make sure he went every single day, unless he was sick of course. Then she could dote on him. He had told her once that he wanted to be an attorney and his parents had set up a fund for him, so he could attend law school. She was afraid that if they objected to their relationship, they could cut him off and leave him struggling to find a way to pay for it himself. Lila thought to herself that she wasn't a wealthy woman by any means, but she had some money saved and was more than willing to help Jordan accomplish his goals. She loved him that much and wanted to see him succeed. As the day progressed, Jordan found it difficult to concentrate, partly because he was so exhausted from staying up all night with Lila, but also because he was replaying the events of last night over and over again in his head. A smile broke out on his face every time he thought of the utter jubilation he felt after she accepted his proposal. He also remembered how nervous he was before he asked her. He was almost certain that she would have said no, thinking it was too soon. This baffled him. Granted, he was happy that she did say yes and looked forward to marrying her, but he started to wonder what her feelings were before she accepted. Why, out of all the men in the world she could have, did she choose him? He felt as though he needed to know the answer to put his mind at ease. When the bell rang signifying the end of school, Jordan went over to Lila's house. As he opened the door, he saw her napping on the couch. He walked over to her and gently kissed her on the cheek. Wake up, sleepyhead, he whispered. A bleary-eyed Lila awakened to see Jordan smiling at her and said, Oh, hello, handsome. Wow, I must have been really knocked out. What time is it? 3 o'clock, Jordan replied. Well, can you blame me for being so sleepy? She asked. We did have an exciting time last night, didn't we? Yes, we did. Baby, he said as he sat down next to her. So, now that you saw how I spent my day, how was yours? She asked. It was good. I was pretty tired myself, but the thought of coming home to you kept me from dozing off in class. Lila chuckled and hugged Jordan. He held her close to him, realizing how much he had missed her throughout the day. When they parted, she saw that his mind was preoccupied and asked, Are you okay? I'm better now that I'm with you, he said. But there is something that I wanted to talk to you about. What is it? Lila asked, feeling slightly worried. I'm going to be completely honest with you, so I would expect you to do the same, he said. Okay, sweetheart, she said, a knot tightening in her stomach. Jordan took a deep breath and said, last night when I asked you to marry me, I wasn't sure what your answer was going to be. Of course I wanted you to say yes, and I'm more than thrilled that you did, but I half expected you to say no. My feeling was that you may have thought it was too soon, so it took me quite some time to get up the courage to ask you. You are a loving, caring, beautiful, sexy woman, and you can have any man you want. What made you decide to choose me? Lila mused over his question for a moment, and after a long pause gave her response. Jordan, I'm going to level with you. When my husband passed away, I thought it was the end of the world. I just wanted to crawl into a hole and die. I became somewhat of a recluse, not wanting to see anyone or do anything. Then my sister had a heart-to-heart with me and told me that although Gary was gone, I still had to go on living because that's what he would have wanted me to do. I understand. Go on, Jordan said as he held her hand. After a year had gone by, I felt like I had given myself enough time to grieve, so I took my sister's advice and went out. I got hit on many times, and I went on a few dates, but none of those men had the qualities I was looking for. I wanted something more than just a roll in the hay, and that was all they were interested in. I practically gave up on finding the right one, but then you came along. Lila continued, when we first met and I looked into your eyes, it was as if I could see my future. I'll admit your age was somewhat of a concern to me at first, but the more I got to know you, I could see that you were the sensitive, gentle, romantic man I had been searching for, and you have proven me right more times than I can count. So when you asked me to marry you, I knew in my heart that yes was the only possible answer I could give. The relief Jordan felt after hearing her response was evident when she looked at him, his eyes tearing up. She moved in to hug him once again, laying his head on her chest while tears rolled down his face. He simply could not imagine how any man would not want to be with this angel of a woman, and the thought of them being inconsiderate to her filled him with anger. He sat up, looked her in the eye, and said, Lila, as long as I am on this earth, my sole mission in life will be to keep you safe. I don't ever want any guy to try and pick you up or make any rude comments to you. I am not like that, and if anything ever happened to you, I don't know what I would do. I know, sweetheart, she said. I thank my lucky stars every day that I have you in my life. You saved me from making a huge mistake by settling for less. I now know I have the best, and I'm never letting go of that. Jordan stroked her hair and leaned in to kiss her. He didn't think it was possible, but he loved her even more than he did when he first walked in the door. And he knew that as the years would go on, when they were both old and gray, he would still love her as much as he did at that very moment. After their conversation, Jordan could barely keep his eyes open. Lila told him to go ahead and lie down for a while, and she would wake him up when dinner was ready. While he slept, Lila straightened up the living room. She started to laugh to herself as she picked her dress up from the back of the recliner, fondly remembering how she and Jordan started to tear each other's clothes off as soon as they got in the door, unable to wait until they were in the bedroom before they ravaged each other. She then heard a knock on the door and looked out the window to see who it was. She was pleasantly surprised to see her sister, a successful photographer, standing outside. She was away for 2 months on various photo shoots in Manhattan, so Lila was ecstatic to see her. Diana, it's so good to see you. Please come in, Lila said with excitement as she opened the door and gave her a warm hug. Diana immediately noticed a positive change in Lila's demeanor since their last visit, which brought her a sense of relief. Her sister was also her closest friend, and seeing her genuinely happy filled Diana with comfort and joy. Hey, sweetie, I just got in this morning and wanted to come over to see how my big sister was doing. You look fabulous. Did I miss anything while I was away? She asked. Oh boy, have you? Lila said with a huge smile on her face. Well, let's hear it then, Diana said as she sat down at the kitchen table, the place where they always shared their innermost secrets with each other. Lila hadn't told her of her relationship with Jordan when they spoke over the phone, but she knew deep down she would support her no matter what. Diana, it's finally happened. After so many years of searching, I finally met the man I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, Lila said. Diana's mouth opened wide, turning into a huge smile as she hugged her sister and said, Oh honey, I'm so happy for you. So what's his name? What does he do? How did you meet? Whoa, slow down, Lila said jokingly. You're going to give yourself a heart attack. One thing at a time. I can't help it. I'm just so excited for you, Diana said. Thank you, Lila said. Well, for starters, his name is Jordan Walker. We met when he moved in next door with his family. His family? Diana asked with an apprehensive look. He lives with his parents? Well, there is one thing you need to know about him. He's younger than I am. How much younger? He's 18. What? Diana asked, suddenly very worried. Are you serious? I'm dead serious, Lila said. But before you get all worked up and motherly on me, let me explain. Diana sighed and said, okay. I'm dying to hear this one. Well, let me start by saying that this relationship has made me really want to live life again. You remember how I was when Gary died? I didn't want to have anything to do with anyone, Lila said. Yes, I remember. It broke my heart to see you so depressed. I know it did. And I also know how upset you were when you saw the rotten luck I was having trying to find another man as wonderful as he was. I had all but given up hope. But then the day came when I met Jordan. Diana, when I looked into those beautiful eyes of his, sparks just flew. I could see such confidence, such warmth. It was like a dream. If there is a thing called love at first sight, that was definitely it. I see, Diana said. But didn't it occur to you that he was too young for you? I was thinking that at first, Lila said, but I pushed all of that aside and really got to know him as a person. He's sensitive, caring, loving, and unbelievably handsome. Plus, he's certainly more mature than a lot of the losers I met when I used to go out. He treats me like a queen, and I just fell head over heels for him. What can I say? I'm madly in love with him, and he feels the same way about me. Diana saw the radiant glow on Lila's face, and she knew that was the mark of a truly happy, contented woman. This was the first time in years that she had seen her like this, and her worries started to subside. Wow, this was quite a surprise. He sounds so amazing. You better watch out, or I might try and steal him from you, she said mischievously. Oh no, you won't, Lila said with a laugh. I'll definitely fight you to the death over that. I'm kidding, Lila, geez, Diana said as she hugged her sister again. So, when do I get to meet your Prince Charming? Actually, he's here right now. He's asleep. We were up all last night doing, well, you know, Lila said, raising her eyebrows. Ooh, baby. Must be nice to have a young stud around the house. Diana joked. Ah, come on. It's not just about sex. Although, I have to say that is one of the high points. Lila said. Diana got serious for a moment and said, Lila, it warms my heart to see you so happy. This isn't the type of relationship most people would get themselves into, myself included. It's unconventional to say the least, and I just hope for your sake that it lasts. I know it will last, Lila said. She paused for a moment and said, you know, it makes me emotional when I think of how it would be if Gary was still here. But the way I like to think about it is that he saw how unhappy I was from heaven and sent Jordan to me to make me realize how much I wanted to go on living. And that's what I want to do more than ever now, because of him. Diana took Lila's hand and said, that's wonderful, sweetie. I'm all for it if it makes you this overjoyed. You're my only sister, and I love you very much. If this is what you want, then I'll wholeheartedly stand by you. You really mean that? Lila asked. Of course I do, Diana replied. Well then, I guess you have no choice but to say yes when I ask you to be my maid of honor. Diana was blown away. You're getting married? Oh my God. How much more are you going to throw at me? I'm about to pass out as it is. I'd be delighted to be your maid of honor. But there's something I have to ask you first. What's that? You don't have to get married, do you? I mean, I won't have to bring a shotgun to the church with me, will I? Diana asked jokingly. And no, I'm not pregnant, Lila said as she playfully slapped her arm. But who knows? Maybe someday we will give you a niece or nephew to spoil. That's the one thing you have been bugging me about for the last 10 years, so I think that time may come soon. Oh man, what a homecoming this has been. I couldn't be more thrilled for you, Noodle, Diana said, remembering the nickname she gave her because she was such a spaghetti freak when they were little. Noodle? I almost forgot about that, Lila said with a hearty laugh. As they continued their talk, Jordan woke up and came out to the kitchen. Diana saw him out of the corner of her eye and was stunned by how good-looking he was. She also noticed how his eyes lit up when he saw Lila, and that made her feel even more confident of her sister's decision. So, Lila, is this the heartthrob you were telling me about? She asked. Yes, it is, she said as she got up from her chair and kissed him. Sweetheart, this is my sister Diana. Jordan walked over to her and said, it's very nice to meet you. Lila has told me so much about you. She's told me a lot about you as well, and it was all good. I'm very happy for the both of you. It will be a pleasure to welcome you into our family. Just take good care of my sister, or you will have me to deal with, got it? She said as she stood up to hug him. Oh, you don't have to worry about that, Jordan replied. She's in good hands. So I've heard, Diana said with a devilish grin. Jordan laughed as he was hugging her. Then he sat down at the table. Would you like to stay for dinner? He asked. Oh yes. Please stay, Lila said. I haven't seen you in so long. It will give us all a chance to talk, and you two can get better acquainted. That sounds great, Diana replied. But to me this is a special occasion. I'm taking you both out to celebrate, my treat. We couldn't impose on you like that, Jordan said. I want to do it, she said, and I won't take no for an answer. Well, since you put it that way, I'd better get changed, Jordan said. He kissed Lila again before heading back to the bedroom. Diana looked at her and said, wow, you weren't lying. He is gorgeous. Watch it, Missy, she replied. Don't make me have to hurt you. He's all mine. Diana hugged Lila. and said, I wouldn't have it any other way. With all the exciting events that happened to him within a course of a few days, Jordan had completely forgotten that he had a long weekend coming up. The following Monday was Columbus Day, so he was off from school. He was elated because that would give him an extra day to settle in at Lila's house permanently. It was Thursday, so he was also nervous. His parents were coming home tomorrow, so he needed to get a game plan together on how he was going to tell them that not only was he moving out, but he was also in love with Lila and they were engaged. He didn't quite know what to expect from either of them, so he felt like he needed some advice. During lunch, he sat with Blake, one of his closest friends, and explained his dilemma to him. Hey, Jordan, what's up? You look a little green, Blake said. It's been a crazy week, dude, Jordan said, but it's been the best week of my life. So what's the deal? I haven't seen much of you lately. Everyone's been asking about you, especially Amanda. You know how much that girl digs you, Blake said. Amanda? Please. I wouldn't hit that if you paid me, Jordan said. Oh, so I suppose you know someone better? Blake asked. Yes, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, Jordan said with a serious expression. Oh, okay. Sorry, man. Go ahead. I'm all ears, Blake said. Well, I'm not sure where to begin, so I guess I'll just come right out and say it, Jordan said. I've met the woman of my dreams, and we're engaged. Huh, Blake said. Did I hear you say you're engaged? Yep, I am, Jordan said with a smile. Dude, that's cool as hell, Blake said loudly, but then lowered his voice when one of his teachers nearby turned her head in surprise. I mean, that's positively delightful, young Jordan, he said, mocking the teacher. Jordan laughed and said, yeah, it is. Her name is Lila, and Blake, I'm telling you, she is the best thing that has ever happened to me. So who is she? Do I know her? No, but you've seen her before, Jordan said. Do you remember when you came over to my house for the first time? We were outside shooting hoops, and you stopped to check out our next-door neighbor. Yeah, I remember that. She was hot. Jordan flashed a knowing smile, making Blake realize who he was talking about. Her, he exclaimed. She's the one you're engaged to? Damn, dude, you've struck gold. Yeah, I know I have, Jordan said. She is gorgeous, but she's even more beautiful on the inside. Her heart is bigger than what I've seen of the girls here. I'm so much in love right now. It's like nothing I've ever felt before. I know she's the one. That's great. But from what I can recall, she was about the same age as your mother, right? Blake asked. Yeah, she is, but that's okay, Jordan replied. Our age difference doesn't mean a thing to either of us. But Jordan, are you really sure about this? Blake asked, concerned for his friend. Her age might mean something to you down the road. I know you're 18 and all, but being with someone that's so much older than you could cause you some problems. I mean, I assume you want to have kids someday. Have you thought about the idea that she may not be able to have a baby when you're ready to have one? She's a knockout, don't get me wrong, but her biological clock must be ticking away like crazy. Jordan thought about what he had said and decided that it wasn't worth considering. He knew in the farthest reaches of his soul that Lila was the one he was meant to be with, and said, yeah, I've thought about that, and it doesn't matter to me. When the time comes to have a baby, we'll try to have one of our own. And if it doesn't happen, then so be it. There are so many kids out there that need good homes, and I'd be more than willing to give them one. I want Lila there to raise him or her with me. That's the most important thing, having her there to share in it. Well, okay then. If this is what you feel is right for you, then I'm happy for you, man, Blake said as he shook Jordan's hand. So, what did Mar and Bree have to say about this? That's another thing I wanted to talk to you about, Jordan said. I haven't told them yet. They've been away for a week, and they're coming home tomorrow. I'm not sure how they're going to take it, especially the part where I tell them that I'm moving out this weekend. You're moving in with her, too? Blake said. Phew, I don't know, Jordan. They may have a lot to say about it. I know, so I was hoping you could help me figure out the best way to tell them. I mean, they've been really good to me my entire life, and I don't want to hurt them, Jordan said. Well, all I can say is, you're 18 and you are old enough to make your own decisions. That's something every parent has to come to grips with eventually. It will probably come as a shock to them, and they may get really pissed at you. But what it all comes down to is you are their son, and they've raised you to be a strong, independent person who's capable of taking care of himself. They should want nothing more than to see you happy, and I can see that you really are. So, my advice to you is to just come right out and tell them, and don't pull any punches. Stand firm, but at the same time be respectful of their feelings. They'll come around. Jordan breathed a heavy sigh of relief and said, Thanks, man. I knew I could count on you. You've been a really big help. Don't sweat it, Big J. You know, around here, everyone calls me the second coming of Dr. Phil, Blake said. Jordan smiled while shaking his head and said, You are so full of shit, dude. The bell rang, and as they walked to their next class, Blake teased, You know, if you need help with moving this weekend, I'm free. If I can get a closer look at your hottie, then you wouldn't even have to pay me. Thanks anyway, Doc, Jordan said with a chuckle. I don't know if she would be able to resist your sparkling personality and witty conversational skills. Damn, Blake said jokingly. Well, since Lila's already spoken for, maybe I can try my luck with Amanda. Go for it, dude. But let me warn you, once she finds out I'm engaged, it may take her years to mend her broken heart, Jordan kidded. I'd be willing to risk it for a piece of that action, Blake said as he gave Jordan a friendly slap on the back and headed inside his classroom. Jordan walked to his own, feeling confident that he can do what needs to be done to ensure his lifelong happiness with Lila. When Jordan got home from school, he had barely stepped foot inside the house before Lila ran up to him and gave him an explosive kiss. He wasn't prepared for it, so he nearly fell backwards against the door. He was quickly able to get his bearings, and as they were still kissing, he picked her up and carried her over to the couch. He sat down with her legs wrapped around him. Wow, now that's what I call a welcome. What was all that for? He asked. I just wanted to give you a little taste of what it's going to be like when you come home every day after you move in, Lila said. I can certainly get used to that, Jordan said. How about one more? Lila kissed him once again while his hands ran over her back and through her hair. She was starting to think of just ripping his clothes off and taking him right there, but then remembered she had something to discuss with him. Baby, I want you so bad, she said, but I have something to talk to you about. Ah, Jordan said with a feigned expression of sadness, his bottom lip pouting. Oh, come on. That's not fair. You know I can't resist the puppy dog face. Lila exclaimed. Jordan laughed and said, I'm sorry, honey. Okay, enough joking around. What's on your mind? Well, I had this crazy notion that since we are engaged, then we should actually go out and get the rings, she said. Sounds good to me, Jordan said. When do you want to go? How about now? She asked. Really? Jordan asked excitedly. I thought maybe you wanted to wait for a little while, like after I've moved in for good. No, I can't wait any longer, Lila said. I want everyone to know that I'm a woman who's about to marry the love of her life. Especially after what happened today. What happened? Jordan asked, very concerned. Don't get upset, baby, Lila said. It wasn't anything serious. I was at the post office, and while I was standing in line, some greaseball was staring at me. I caught him looking at my left hand to see if I was wearing a ring. That son of a bitch, Jordan said angrily. It's all right, honey, Lila reassured him. I took care of it. What did you do? He asked. Well, as I was leaving, he was standing outside waiting for me. He whistled and called out to me, which I was able to ignore until he started doing it even more loudly. I couldn't take it any longer, so I went right up to him and told him that if he didn't stop, I'd make sure he learned some respect. You did? Jordan said with a laugh, but was still bothered by the thought of something bad happening. Then what happened? After I said that, he had the funniest shocked expression on his face. I couldn't help but laugh at him for being so rude. So, as I walked back to my car, he grabbed the security guard inside and told him I had attacked him for no reason. When the guard asked me about it, I told him exactly what happened. He grabbed the guy by the back of the neck, threw him up against the wall, and gave him a 10-minute lecture on how to treat a lady. I just had to stand there and watch. It was funnier than any Jim Carrey movie I've ever seen. Good for you, baby, Jordan said as he hugged her, relieved that she wasn't hurt. You really surprised me. Who knew that my dainty, sweet little angel face could deliver such a verbal broadside? Well, if that didn't work, I took some martial arts classes when I was younger, and that's helped me out a lot over the years, she said. I'm glad to hear it, he said. But like I said before, now that we're together, I'm going to make sure nothing bad happens to you ever again. I know you will, sweetheart, she said. So let's put this nasty, but really hilarious incident behind us and head to the mall. I want us to take our time and pick out the perfect rings. Sounds great, Jordan said happily. So, how many carats are we talking here? 2, 3 maybe? Oh, I don't need anything that big, she said. I'm talking about mine, he said with a smile. Hey, let's not go overboard now, she said kiddingly. Remember who's financing this little venture? Yeah, I know, Jordan said, disappointed. I still feel bad about not being able to buy you one myself. I don't want you to feel bad about anything, sweetheart, Lila said. We can discuss your payment arrangements when you move in this weekend. Arrangements? He said curiously. Whatever they are, I'll do it. Well, to pay for yours, when you're home you'll have to give me at least 20 kisses an hour for the next 5 years, she said. Jordan smiled and said, okay, I can handle that. And to pay for mine, you'll have to tell me you love me every day for the rest of your life. You will also have to wake up next to me every morning, share your thoughts and feelings with me, and try not to cry too much when you see me walk down the aisle to take you as my husband. Now, that I can definitely handle, he said as he hugged her tightly. The day finally arrived when Jordan's parents were to return home, and he knew without question that he was ready to tell them everything that had been going on. He looked at his engagement ring every chance he could, marveling not only at how it looked on him, but for what it meant to him. It made him feel more self-assured, more confident. He knew what he was doing was the right thing, and he wasn't going to back down to anyone. When school was over and he started to walk down his street, Jordan saw his dad's truck in the driveway. He decided that before he was going to head over to talk to them, he wanted to discuss his plan with Lila first. When he got closer to her house, he saw her sitting on the top step waiting for him. She had a nervous look on her face, and this worried him. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" he said as he sat down next to her. Lila sighed and said, "Oh God, Jordan, I didn't think I would be this shaky. When I saw your parents come home, I felt my stomach tense up. I just don't want them to be angry with you. I want so badly for them to accept me." "Honey, now you listen to me," Jordan said as he took her hand. "You are such a wonderful woman, and if they don't accept you, then there's something seriously wrong with them. I've already mapped out my strategy on how this is going to go down, so you just need to trust me when I tell you that things are going to be just fine. No matter what they say or do, you can start making room in this house for me, because I am coming home to you tonight." Lila felt a little more comfortable after hearing Jordan's reassuring words, but he could tell that she was still nervous. He didn't want her to be alone at a time like this, so he said, "Would it make you feel better if you came with me? I don't want you to sit here by yourself wondering what's going on over there." "That's a good idea," Lila said. "It would make me feel better to be able to talk to them, so in case there are any harsh words thrown around, I can defend myself." "Baby, let me tell you something," Jordan said. "If I hear one derogatory remark from them about you, believe me, they're going to regret it. I love my parents dearly, but there's no way in hell I'm going to let them talk down to you. I won't stand for it." Lila's eyes began to well up, and she hugged Jordan as he tried to keep her from completely breaking down. "Don't cry, sweetie," Jordan said. "It tears me up inside to see you so upset. Just remember, I love you. I love you too, baby," she said as she wiped the tears from her eyes. They braced themselves as they stood up and started to walk over to the house hand in hand. They went inside, and Jordan called out to his parents. "Mom, Dad, where are you?" he said. "Up here. We'll be right down," Marina said from their upstairs bedroom, where they were unpacking. Lila was so terrified she began to tremble. Jordan sat her down on the couch and said, "Let me do the talking, okay? You just sit here and try to relax." "Okay," she said with a heavy sigh, her heart about to jump into her throat. Marina and Bryce came downstairs and were surprised to see Lila sitting on the couch. "Oh, hello, Lila," Marina said with a smile. "It's good to see you. Did you keep a watchful eye on Jordan?" Yes I did," Lila said quietly, forcing a smile to try and hide her anxiety. "That's good," Marina said as she hugged Jordan. Bryce came over to him, shook his hand, and said, "So, how was your week?" Jordan remained quiet for a moment, and then said, "It was beyond great, Dad." "Cool," he said as he sat down in the rocking chair. Marina sat in her recliner and said, "So, has anything major happened around here since we've been away?" Jordan sat down next to Lila and held her hand. Marina and Bryce looked at both of them, then at each other in bewilderment. Jordan, is there something you haven't told us?" Bryce asked as he sat up in his chair. Jordan looked at Lila, swallowed hard, and said, "Mom, Dad, I have something really important to tell you." "Okay," Marina said, suddenly feeling anxious. "Oh, man," Jordan whispered to himself. He then took a deep breath and said, "Lila and I have been together for the past month, and I've asked her to marry me." "What?" Marina said as she jumped up from her chair. "You can't be serious." "Now, Mom, calm down," Jordan said. "Calm down," Marina yelled. "How on earth can you even tell me to calm down? What the hell are you thinking? She's 20 years older than you." "I know that, Mom," he said, "but age is just a number to us. We love each other, and we want to spend the rest of our lives together." "Oh my God in heaven," Marina said as she flopped back down in her chair. Lila began to speak in her defense, but Marina stopped her cold. "I don't even want to hear one word from you," she said furiously. "I suppose the only reason you befriended me was to get close to my son. You're nothing but a backstabbing little 304. Jordan's eyes flashed with anger. He stood up and yelled, "Don't you ever talk to her like that. Who the hell do you think you are?" Bryce sat there in a state of shock, but was more understanding of Jordan's feelings. He stood up from his chair and coolly said, "Jordan, your mother is upset, and she has every reason to be." He then looked at Marina and said, "Marina, you need to apologize to Lila right now." "Why should I?" she asked. "Because what you just said was completely out of line," he said. "You really need to settle down and let these two discuss this with us as adults." "Well, there are 3 adults here," Marina said sarcastically. "Where's the other one?" "That would be me, Mom," Jordan said. "I am 18, remember? Now, before I really lose my temper, you need to tell Lila you're sorry." Marina looked at her husband and sighed. Then she turned to Lila and defiantly said, "I'm sorry, Lila. That was rude of me. Sincerely, I apologize." Lila sat there quivering and said, "It's okay. I understand this has come as quite a shock to the both of you. Bryce sat back down and said, okay, now that everyone has gotten a grip on themselves, let's talk about this. Jordan opened by saying, well, the bottom line is that Lila and I are deeply in love. I've never met anyone like her. She's warm, caring, loving, everything I could have ever asked for and more. She's my dream come true, and when I'm away from her, I die a little bit inside. Then when I'm back in her arms, it's like heaven on earth. I can't live without her, and I know that marrying her would make my life complete. But Jordan, what about your education? Marina asked. You're still a senior in high school. And what about law school? Are you going to throw all of that away to get married? Mom, it's not like we're going to run off and elope tomorrow, Jordan said defensively. We're going to wait a while. Marina, may I say something? Lila asked. Yes, please do, she said fuming. Lila nervously walked over to her. Marina, Jordan is an amazing, remarkable, and wonderful person. I truly believe much of that is thanks to you and Bryce. You've done an outstanding job raising him, and you should be very proud. He's a grown man now, and though I don't have children of my own, I can only imagine how hard it must be to watch your only child step out into the world on his own. Marina's heart began to soften as she listened to Lila's kind words. She then asked, all right, now I want you to tell me how you feel about him. I care about him deeply, Lila said. He's compassionate, gentle, and incredibly generous. As I said, you have every reason to be proud of the person he's become. I promise you, I would never do anything to harm him or hold him back from anything he wants to achieve. He's one of the most important people in my life, and his presence has brought a sense of purpose and peace I didn't even realize I was missing. His support means the world to me. Marina was taken aback by Lila's declaration of love for her son, but was still troubled. She then looked at Jordan and said, Jordan, you are technically an adult now, but you're a young adult. You have your entire life ahead of you. Have you thought about the consequences this could bring if it didn't work out? And what about children? Lila is 38 and doesn't have many more years left to be able to provide you with a child. Bryce agreed with her and said, listen, the true test of lasting love is when you decide you still want to be together no matter what trials and tribulations you face. Marriage is a wonderful thing, but it's also very hard. You will have to work together as a team to get each other through those difficult times, and you may not want to hear this now, but you will have them. I know your relationship is still new and that you are swooning over each other now, but Jordan, Lila is a lot older than you. She is beautiful today, but what are you going to think of her when she's 60 and really starting to show her age? You'll be 40, and she may not be as beautiful to you as she once was. Lila stood there feeling slightly offended by Bryce's comments about her age and that she may lose her looks when she gets older. But she knew he had a point, and she looked at Jordan while anxiously awaiting his response. Jordan stood there with a thoughtful look on his face. He took Lila's hand, sat next to her on the couch, and said, Dad, you were the one who told me when I started dating that a person's true beauty lies within their heart. I have been with other girls, but none of them even came close to Lila. I looked past the outer shell and discovered a precious jewel inside. I am more than ready to take on whatever life has in store for me, just as long as she is there with me. When I'm 60 and she's 80, I'll still be desperately in love with her. She will be as beautiful to me as ever, because I fell in love with her heart. As far as children are concerned, he continued, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We will know when the right time will be. And if we can't have any of our own, there's always adoption. I just want to experience that with no one else but her. Bryce and Marina heard all of this, and they accepted that Jordan and Lila were truly happy and completely in love. They started to feel better about the situation, and Bryce said, well, it seems to me that you two were made for each other, just like Marina and I are. Marina smiled at him and said, I guess I know now that this isn't just a meaningless fling. I also needed a swift kick in the pants to make me realize that Jordan is indeed a grown man, and he knows what he wants. Jordan walked over to his mother and said, Mom, you'll never have to worry about me. As long as Lila is in my life, then I'm going to be fine. I promise. Marina hugged him and said, I love you, kiddo. I love you too, Mom, he said. Marina then looked at Lila and said, Jordan is my son, but he's an adult and has to begin making his own decisions at some point. I accept that this is what he wants right now, but it's going to take time to see how things work between you two before I give anyone my blessing. Then she walked over and hugged her. Thank you, Lila said. I wouldn't have expected anything more. Bryce then hugged Lila and said, if there's anything we can do for you, just name it. Well, there is one thing, Jordan said, feeling nervous again. Oh, what's that? Bryce asked with a smile. We could use some help packing my stuff, Jordan said. Lila's asked me to move in with her. Marina started to feel angry again, but stopped herself when she realized that arguing with Jordan would do her no good. She knew he was responsible enough to make it on his own, and said, "Well, if that's what you want to do, just do me a favor. Promise me that you will continue with your schooling." "I will make sure of that," Lila said. "I will kick his butt out the door every morning. You can count on it." "Spoken like a woman who's already married," Bryce said kiddingly. Marina smacked his arm, then looked at Jordan and said, "Well, all right then. Just so your dad and I know you will be the high-powered attorney you have always wanted to be, then go ahead and spread your wings." She then looked at Lila and said, "When you have a date set, let me know so we can go over the wedding details." "I'm looking forward to it," she said. "Oh boy, guess I'm going to have to start getting used to this," Marina said with a laugh as they all walked upstairs to Jordan's room to gather his belongings together. It took at least 5 hours to pack Jordan's things and move them over to Lila's house, even with his parents helping him. He was grateful for their assistance, considering he had blown up at his mother for making Lila feel terrible about taking her only son away from her. She really didn't have to help him. It was 9 o'clock when Bryce carried the last box into Lila's house, and Jordan's parents stood by the door with pained expressions. They were heartbroken that he was leaving so soon, but knew their son was mature enough to know what he was getting himself into. "Well," Bryce said, "it looks like this is the last of them." "Yeah," Jordan said, "looks that way." Marina let out a heavy sigh and said, "Well, kiddo, we'll leave you two alone so you can get settled in. Your dad and I are pretty exhausted from everything that's happened today, not to mention jet lag. Are you sure you don't want to stick around?" Lila asked. "I can put on some coffee and we can talk some more." "That sounds nice. Thank you," Marina said, "but I'd probably start snoring in the middle of our conversation. Can I take a rain check?" "Absolutely," Lila said. "We really do appreciate all that you have done for us. This is something we will be eternally thankful for." "It's not a problem," Marina said. "Just remember what I told you. I need to see how things will work out for you in the future. Once I feel satisfied that you two will be together for the long haul, then I'll welcome you with open arms." "That's all I ask," Lila said. Marina and Bryce hugged both of them and started back to their house. Once they left, Jordan and Lila walked over to the couch, looked at each other with a smile, then collapsed as they sat down. They were dead tired from moving, but also completely relieved that things worked out better than they expected. Lila took her sneakers off and laid down with her legs over Jordan's lap. He started to give her a foot massage, which nearly put her to sleep. "That feels so good," Lila said, feeling groggy. "I feel so blessed to be in your parents' good graces." "So do I, sweetheart," Jordan said. "I feel so liberated. This is my life now, and I know that without you there to share in it, I would be totally miserable. I don't even know how I made it before I met you. You have done so much for me in so many ways, I couldn't begin to describe it." Lila sat up and said, "I feel exactly the same way about you, honey. I meant what I said. You are my lifeline. My heart, my breath, my very being belongs to no one but you. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I couldn't go on without you." Jordan took her hand and said, "I'm not going anywhere. Angel-faced, we will show my parents exactly what true love is. I'm going to make you so incredibly happy. You'll feel like you're walking on air every second of every day." "Well, you're off to a good start already," Lila replied. "I don't ask for anything more than what you are doing right now. Your moving in here is just the beginning of a spectacular life together. I can't wait to get started." They both looked at all of the boxes and clothes scattered around the living room. They sighed, looked at each other, and Lila asked, "How about we start in the morning?" Jordan laughed in agreement and said, "Okay, baby, let's hit the sack. I can start by sleeping next to you tonight in my new home." The grandfather clock in the living room struck the 10 o'clock hour, finally waking Lila from her slumber. She felt rested and ready to start helping Jordan unpack. She noticed that she was alone in bed and climbed out to discover that he was almost finished putting his things away. "Good morning, sweetheart," Jordan said. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes, very well," Lila said. "How long have you been awake?" "I was up at 8, he said. "You looked so peaceful. I didn't have the heart to disturb you." "I wouldn't have minded," she said as she hugged him. "I was looking forward to helping you." "I'm sorry, baby," he said. "It's all right," she said, giving him a loving kiss. "Can you use my help now?" "Sure. You can help me decide where to put these," he said as he handed her a box. She saw that it contained posters and was surprised to see what was on them. "Do I see the Beatles on these?" she asked. "Yep, why do you ask?" "I love them," she said. "I'm kind of amazed that someone your age would even be into the Beatles." "Oh, I've liked them since I was a kid," he said. "My parents have all their albums, and I have them all on CD. I dig that classic stuff." "That's so cool," she said. "Who else do you like?" "Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, Queen, just to name a few. That was when music was good. The lyrics had a lot of heart, you know? A lot of the garbage that's out today is just unlistenable to me," he said. "Wow, that's yet another thing I love about you," she said. "We have the same taste in music." Jordan saw how excited she was, and used this opportunity to take out his Beatles' Abbey Road CD. He put it in his boom box that was sitting on the dresser and skipped to the second track. Thinking of how elated she was on their first date when he sang to her, he took her by the hand to dance with her. The song Something came on, and they reenacted their first dance together as he sang to her. Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover. Something in the way she woos me. I don't want to leave her now. You know I believe, and how. Lila smiled at him as she looked into his eyes while they danced. She was so filled with joy, thinking this was the perfect start to their life together. They were about to kiss when a loud banging on the front door startled them. What the hell? Jordan asked wide-eyed. Stay here, Lila said. You keep unpacking. I'll see what's going on. Lila ran out to the living room to open the door. As soon as she turned the knob, her father Frank pushed it open and stormed inside. Where is he? He said, his face flushed with anger. Where is who? Lila asked in astonishment. That little boy you've been shacking up with, he said, looking around to see if Jordan was in view. Frank smelled of Jack Daniels and cigarettes, something Lila had to get used to after her mother passed away when Lila was 16. He was never there for his daughters before or after their mother died, so Lila had no choice but to assume the role of taking over for her and practically raising her sister from the age of 11. I take it you've spoken to Diana, she said sarcastically. Maybe if you bothered to pick up the phone and call me every once in a while you wouldn't have had to hear it from someone else. Don't use that tone with me, he said loudly. You might be closing in on 40, but I'm still your father. Yeah, some father, she sniffed. You were never there for us at any point in our lives. You didn't even have the decency to show up at Gary's funeral because you were too drunk. I'm surprised Diana even has anything to do with you after the way you treated us when we were kids. And is this your way of getting back at me? Frank asked, his voice growing louder and more agitated. Living with some kid who isn't even yours? Jordan heard the argument from the bedroom and quickly rushed out, asking, Lila, who is this guy? I would like to say that he's my father, Lila said, but I'd rather think of him as some anonymous sperm donor. Jordan could smell the booze coming off of Frank from across the room and calmly said, Look, with all due respect, I think you need to go home and sleep this one off. Don't tell me what I should do, boy, Frank yelled, then looked at Lila and said, You should be ashamed of yourself. This guy is still a kid. If your mother was still here, don't you ever mention my mother with that stinking breath of yours. Lila screamed. If she hadn't have died so young, I would have done everything in my power to make sure she left your sorry butt. I could never for the life of me figure out what she saw in you. Jordan is 1,000 times the man that you could ever even hope to be. If Mom was still alive, she would be so happy to know that I have someone who treats me with respect and loves me unconditionally, no matter what his age. She would have been just as supportive as Diana and his parents are. Oh, so I guess now that you have someone who's better than I am, you have no reason to even acknowledge me anymore, Frank said. I'm just some worthless piece of trash to you now? Some lush who never gave you anything? You said it. I didn't, Lila said. Dad, I can't think of any time in my life that you and I sat down just to have a nice conversation. Diana and I had to grow up quickly after Mom died because you were so consumed with your own self-destructive tendencies. She and I have tried to reach you, but you keep pushing us away. I was so lost for so long, and I needed my father to lean on. You weren't there for me then, and I don't want you here now. But Lila, you can't choose this kid over your own father, Frank said. Watch me, she said as she went to the front door to open it. Jordan and I love each other, and we are going to get married whether you're there or not. If you can't find it in yourself to support me, then as far as I'm concerned, I no longer have a father. Frank stood there defiantly, waiting in vain for an apology. He looked at Jordan and said, I hope you're happy. You've single-handedly destroyed my relationship with my daughter. No, sir, Jordan said, his blood boiling. From what I just heard, you did that yourself a long time ago. Now get out. Frank walked over to the door where Lila was holding it open. He looked at the two of them for the last time and stormed out. Lila slammed the door behind him and stood there for a moment, trying to keep her composure. Jordan walked up behind her, put his hand on her shoulder, and asked, Baby, are you okay? Without a word, she turned around and hugged Jordan tightly while breaking down into uncontrollable sobs. He walked her over to the couch and sat her down, holding on to her as she wept. It's going to be all right, honey, Jordan said, trying to console her. You're better off without him in your life. I know that now, she said. Diana and I have done so much for that man, and we've gotten nothing but grief from him. We tried our best to remain civil to him because he's our father, but it was no use after a while. Once she hears what just happened, then I'm sure she will cut him out of her own life. She needs to, Jordan said. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I know how hard this must be for you. If it makes you feel any better, you will have in-laws who will love you. I wish I could bring your mother back, but since I can't, you can think of my parents as your own. After a long period of silence, Lila finally stopped crying. She looked at Jordan and said, "I'm sorry." "Why are you apologizing?" Jordan asked. "You've done nothing to be sorry about. This day was supposed to be the start of our wonderful life together, and then he showed up and ruined it. I feel so terrible." "Baby, this was not your fault," Jordan said, stressing his point by holding onto her arms and looking her square in the eye. "Our life together will be even more beautiful now that you don't have to worry about your father trying to come between us. He's an insignificant troll, and now he's gone for good. I know how that hurts you, but we still have a lifetime of love and happiness ahead of us. This was one of those difficult times my dad warned us about, and we will work together to overcome it." "I never thought of it that way," Lila said. "I guess it's true what they say, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger." "That's my girl," Jordan said as he held her tightly once again. "So what do you want to do now? I can make you some breakfast if you're up to it." "You're going to cook for me?" Lila said, smiling. "That's so sweet." "Well, not exactly cook," Jordan said. "I can't even boil water without burning it. I was thinking maybe some cereal and half a grapefruit." "That sounds perfect," she said with a kiss on his hand. Jordan took her hand and walked her out to the kitchen. He sat her down at the table and made her the most fulfilling breakfast she had ever had, because he made it for her out of love. 2 months had passed, and Jordan's first Christmas with Lila was fast approaching. He found a job in the men's department at Macy's of all places, and working there made him feel like a kid in a candy store. But he was saving his money for a special gift for her, and with his employee discount he was able to afford what he wanted to buy. It was Christmas Eve, so Jordan worked a 10-hour shift. When he finally arrived home at 8 o'clock, he was exhausted from running around the store catering to his customers' needs. But he had still found the time to make his special purchase, and when he thought of the look on Lila's face when she saw it, it motivated him to stay up until midnight so he could give it to her. "Baby, I'm home," Jordan said as he walked in the house. He was thrilled to see that Lila had brought home a live Christmas tree, and he loved the smell of pine that filled the room because of it. His parents always settled for artificial trees when he was growing up, so this was a welcome sight to him. "Hey, sweetheart," Lila said as she ran up to greet him. "What do you think of it?" "It's beautiful," he said as he kissed her. "How did you get it here in that little car of yours?" "Your parents and I went and picked it out," she said. "We took your dad's truck. They even helped me bring it in and set it up. Wasn't that sweet of them?" "Wow, it sure was," Jordan said, surprised. "They never went to that kind of trouble when I was a kid." "Well, as we were on our way to the lot, Marina told me that since this was our first Christmas together, it should be extra special," Lila said. "I mentioned that we always had live trees when I was growing up, so we went and found one that would be perfect. She knew having this would only make our first Christmas even more memorable. It looks as though she may be getting closer to fully accepting our relationship." "Well, hallelujah," Jordan exclaimed. "Now that's what I call a true Christmas miracle." Lila laughed and said, "Well, I think I've given the branches enough time to settle, so how about we decorate it?" "Let's do it," Jordan said. After the tree was completed, Lila turned off all the lights. She and Jordan stood in front of it admiring the colored lights, shiny ornaments, and the fiber-optic animated angel on top. They sat down on the couch holding their glasses of wine. "You know something," Jordan said. "That angel on top of the tree must have been modeled after you. The only difference being you are way more beautiful." "Thank you, sweetheart," Lila said as she kissed him. "This has already turned out to be the best Christmas of my life." "It can only get better, baby," he said. "I can't imagine how," she said teasingly. "Just having you here is enough for me." "Just wait until the clock strikes midnight," he said. "We are allowed to open one gift from each other at that time." "Really?" Lila asked enthusiastically. "I've always waited until the morning. I can't wait to see your reaction to what I have for you," he said. "There's no way I'll be able to sleep tonight unless I give it to you before then." Luckily for Jordan, it was 5 minutes to 12. He counted down the remaining minutes out loud, just to entice Lila even more. "Oh, come on, Jordan," Lila said, losing control from her excitement. "Do we have to wait until exactly midnight?" "Well, it's not quite Christmas yet, is it?" he teased. "We still have 45 seconds to go." "Grr," Lila exclaimed. Jordan let out a hearty laugh and said, "All right, baby, we can open them now. I think I've tortured you long enough." Jordan went over to the coat closet and took out a small wrapped box from his jacket pocket. Lila also had a small wrapped box for him. This worried him for a second because he was thinking that she may have gotten him the same thing, and that would have ruined his surprise. "Merry Christmas, angel face," he said as he handed her gift to her. "Merry Christmas, my darling," she said. "You open yours first." "Okay," he said as he started to tear open the paper. When he saw the box was from Macy's, he started to feel panicky. It looked exactly like what he had for her, but he was overjoyed when he saw the stainless silver Yescu Centurion chronograph watch he had admired when they first went shopping together. "Oh, baby, this is beautiful," he said. "Thank you so much." "You're welcome," Honey, she said. That's not all. Read the back. Jordan took the watch out of the box and turned it over to see there was an inscription that read, Love you forever. Eternally yours, Angel Face. Jordan looked at Lila and said, My God, I don't know what to say. This is just so. He paused, then said, I love you so much. I love you too, sweetheart, Lila said. He gave her a long kiss and said, Okay, your turn. Lila smiled and started to open her present. Jordan was beyond excited, and he sat up and braced himself for what was sure to be quite a reaction. When she opened the box, she immediately started to cry when she saw matching 14K gold wedding bands. Oh my God, she said, her voice shaking from emotion. She then noticed they were engraved with their initials. JSW for Jordan Stephen Walker, and LMW for Lila Marie Walker. Lila was speechless. She sat there staring at them, the look on her face enough to make Jordan's own eyes well up. Oh, sweetheart, I love them, she said quietly. She then looked at Jordan and said, I am so in awe of you. You have done more than I could have ever asked for to show how much you love me every day, and then you go and do this. You are the one the angel is modeled after. They hugged each other in such a way it nearly frustrated them. They couldn't just crawl inside each other and stay there forever. I was thinking we need to start making wedding plans right away, Jordan said excitedly. I can't wait to make you my wife. Oh, baby, you name the date, and I will be there, she said. I know we were talking about waiting until I was halfway through law school, he said, but I want us to get married right after I graduate in June. I wish we could just run out right now and find a justice of the peace, but I know it takes time to plan the perfect wedding. I can't wait to see you coming down that aisle looking even more radiant than you do at this very moment. Oh, Jordan, I can't wait for that either, Lila said, tears flowing. Let's look on the calendar and pick the date. They went to the kitchen and flipped the calendar ahead to June. Lila grabbed a pen from the counter and circled the date, June 23rd, then looked at Jordan for approval. He smiled and nodded his head in agreement, then picked her up in exhilaration. It was 9 o'clock Christmas morning when Lila and Jordan were awakened by a knock on the door. I'll get it, he said. Jordan went out to the living room and opened the door to see his parents on the other side, holding gifts for him and Lila. Merry Christmas, kiddo, Marina said with a smile. Jordan was thrilled to see his parents. He and Lila were planning on going to their house later in the day, so seeing them come to him was heartwarming. Hey guys, Merry Christmas. Come on in, he said, still trying to wake up. I can't believe you weren't up at the crack like you were when you were little, Bryce said as he hugged his son. Lila and I were up pretty late last night, Jordan said. We exchanged one gift at midnight. I wanted to keep our family tradition alive. That's great, Marina said with her own hug for him. So, can we see what you got for each other? Jordan picked up the watch Lila gave him and showed it to his parents. Wow, that's really nice, his mother exclaimed. Check out the back, he said. Marina turned it over and read what Lila had inscribed for him. She had a heartfelt smile on her face, then looked at him and teasingly said, Angel Face, huh? Jordan blushed a little, which made his mother laugh. That's such a romantic name to give to the woman you love, she said, then looked at Bryce and asked, How come you've never given me an affectionate nickname like that? Thanks a lot, Jordan, Bryce said jokingly. You've really put me on the spot now. Lila walked out to the living room and was pleased to see Jordan's parents sitting there. Good morning, she said. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Marina said as she walked over to give her a hug, making Lila feel especially good. The watch you gave Jordan was very nice, Bryce said. What did he give to you? Lila smiled at Jordan and picked up the box containing the rings. She handed it to Marina, and when she opened it, she let out a surprised gasp. Oh my goodness, she said. These are just beautiful. Does this mean what I think it means? I think so, Mom, Jordan said. Lila and I have decided to get married a couple of weeks after I graduate. Marina was stunned, but not angry. Her feelings of worry and anxiety over their relationship had begun to wane when she saw how happy they were over the last few months, and she felt this was a confirmation of their undying commitment to each other. She couldn't have been happier for them. That's wonderful, she said, her bottom lip quivering at the thought of her only son getting married. Mom, are you okay? Jordan asked when he saw her emotional expression. I'm fine, she said. I just can't believe you're getting married. I knew it would happen eventually, but now that it will be here sooner than I expected, the reality of it is just now starting to sink in. I know I'm going to be a basket case on your wedding day. That's understandable, Lila said. I'm sure I will be a bundle of nerves myself, but once I start to walk down the aisle and I see Jordan waiting for me at the other end, it will all be worth it. You said we could start going over all the details once we had a date set, and I'm letting you know that it will be June 23rd. Oh, and one more thing, she said as she looked at Bryce. Since my mother is deceased and my father won't be able to make it, would you be so kind as to give me away? Bryce smiled and said, I would be honored. He then walked over to her and gave her a big hug. Marina picked up one of the gifts she had for the two of them, handed it to Lila, and said, "Well, I guess now this is more than just a Christmas gift. Think of this as an early wedding present." Jordan and Lila both started to tear the paper off at the same time. Inside the box were two antique crystal candlesticks that Jordan instantly recognized as the ones that belonged to his great-grandmother. "Mom, you didn't," Jordan said, getting emotional himself. "Marina, these are stunning," Lila said, unaware of the meaning behind them. She then saw the look on Jordan's face and asked, "Is there something wrong?" "No, nothing at all," Marina said. "Those candlesticks have been handed down in our family for generations. They have been given as a gift to every woman in our family that has gotten married. My grandmother gave them to my mother, then she gave them to me when I married Bryce. I knew once it was Jordan's turn, then this would be something that could be passed on to him and his wife." Lila was touched by Marina's gift and the sentiment behind it. She walked over to her and thanked her by giving her a hug. "Once the holidays are over, then we can get right to work on your wedding," Marina said. "Sounds great to me," Lila said. The four of them opened their gifts for each other and spent the day together as a family. This was something Jordan and Lila felt so blessed to be a part of and looked forward to the day when they could add their own children to the mix. To Jordan, the months before his wedding seemed to drag by. It was May, for weeks until their big day. Lila and his mother were still hard at work on making the arrangements, and the time had come for him to start looking for tuxedos. He set up a date for himself, his father, and Blake, whom he asked to be his best man. Blake felt honored to be included and graciously accepted. They made their way to Men's Warehouse to get fitted. "So, Big J," Blake said, "this Diana chick I'll be walking with. Is she as hot as her sister?" "Man, is that all you ever think about?" Jordan said with a chuckle. "What? I just wanted to know if I stood a chance or not," Blake said. "Yeah, okay stud," Jordan said. "Diana is pretty, but nowhere near as beautiful as Lila. So what's the deal? Is there a chance?" Blake asked. "Well, why don't you try some of that smooth talking on her when you meet her? Maybe flash that dazzling smile of yours and see if that works. But what if it doesn't? Let me put it to you this way," Jordan said. "Diana is the type that will start beating you over the head with her purse if you say or do the wrong thing." "Yeesh," Blake said. "I think maybe I'll try and charm some other young lady then. They say weddings are the perfect place to meet girls. I'm going to be looking so damn fine in my tux, no one will be able to resist me." He then flashed a toothy grin, which made Jordan laugh hysterically. "You have completely lost it, dude," Jordan said. Bryce shook his head and smiled when he heard this exchange, and said, "You two remind me of me and my brother when we were getting ready for my wedding. Blake is exactly like your Uncle Dave. Horny to a fault?" Jordan kidded. "No," Bryce said. "We were just two young guys who were the best of friends, just like you two. It brings back a lot of good memories. I'm glad to see you looking so happy, Jordan." "Thanks, Dad," he said. Bryce looked at his son in the mirror, dressed in his tuxedo, and said, "I am really proud of you. You have shown more maturity and character in the last 6 months than any other 18-year-old would. It does my heart good as a father to see how fine a man you have become. Lila is going to flip when she sees you." "Not as much as I'm going to when I see her," Jordan replied. "I just know she's going to look so stunning. Blake may have to keep me from losing it right there at the altar." "I don't know, Jordan," Blake teased. "You may have to hold me back from trying to nail her sister." The menswear consultant came out from the back with colored handkerchiefs and asked Jordan, "Do you know what color the maid of honor's dress will be?" "Oh yeah," Jordan said as he pulled out a piece of paper from his wallet. "Lila wrote this down for me. She said to make sure Blake's accessories were in mauve." "What's mauve?" Blake asked. "It's a shade of pink," the consultant said, then returned to the back to retrieve the accessories. "Dude," Blake teased. "My rep as a ladies' man could crumble in one fell swoop if I'm seen wearing pink." "I think you can handle it for one day," Jordan said. "Yeah, you're right," Blake said. "I'm just really glad to be a part of this. You know I don't like to get all mushy, but I'm really happy for you, Jordan. You're the only person that I'd wear pink for." "Thanks, man," Jordan said. "Just make sure you keep your cool when you see Diana in her low-cut gown." "Low-cut?" Blake asked, his eyes dreamily looking off into space. Jordan shook his head and said, "Man, you need some serious help." The three of them looked in the mirror, dressed in their wedding attire, and Bryce joked, "You know, we are some really good-looking guys. When we show up looking like this, all the women will be wanting our numbers." Jordan smiled and said, "You two go right ahead. I've got the perfect woman already." That same day, Lila and Diana went for their own fittings. Marina had purchased her dress already, so it was just the two of them at Eden's bridal. Diana came out of her dressing room in her mauve, halter neck gown beaded along the neckline, and waited for Lila. This would be the first time she would be seeing the gown Lila chose, and she was very excited. "Come on, Lila," Diana said. "I can't wait to see you." When Lila walked out, Diana was awestruck. "Oh my," Diana said, her eyes welling up. "You look so beautiful." Lila walked up the steps to the platform surrounded by 3 full-length mirrors and looked at herself. She was breathless when she saw how this gown seemed to have been made just for her. She tried to stand still as the measurements were being taken, but she couldn't keep herself from getting emotional. "Oh, Diana," she said, "I just can't believe how lucky I am. In 1 month, I will be standing in front of God, vowing my undying love for Jordan. It's like a fairy tale. Please tell me this isn't some wonderful dream, and I'm going to wake up to find that it's not real." "It's as real as I'm standing here," Diana said. "You are one lucky woman, Lila. Jordan is your dream, and you deserve all the happiness in the world." "Thank you," Lila said. "I want this to be the most fantastic day in Jordan's life." "It will be, sweetie," Diana said. "You will be the most beautiful bride ever, and when he sees you, he's just going to go crazy. But not too crazy, I hope. You don't want him to stand there like a babbling idiot while he's saying his vows." "Oh geez, don't say that," Lila said. "You'll jinx it." "I'm joking," Diana said. "But if I know Jordan, he's going to be so overwhelmed the first time he sees you he won't be able to keep his nerves in check. He loves you so much, Lila. I can just see him crying his eyes out the minute he lays eyes on you." Lila let out a long breath and said, "Just make sure when you're doing my makeup that I'll be wearing my waterproof mascara, because when I see him I know I'm going to be just as much an emotional wreck as he will be." "You have my word on it," Diana said. Lila looked at her sister, noticing how lovely she looked in her own gown, and said, "Well, look at you. You're going to stop traffic in that. You never know, your Prince Charming may show up that day and sweep you off your feet." "From your lips to God's ears," Diana said. Once Lila's measurements were finished, she stepped down and took her shoes off. The store associate brought out some hair accessories for her to choose from, and Lila said, "No, thank you. I'm just going to wear some baby's breath." When Lila returned home, she opened the door to find Jordan writing at the desk in the living room. He was so focused on this, he didn't hear her walk up behind him. "What you doing, handsome?" Lila asked. Jordan jumped and said, "Oh, hey baby," as he tried to hide the paper by stuffing it in his pocket. "Are you keeping a secret from me?" Lila asked with a smirk. Yes, in a way I am," he said. "Well, what is it?" she said as she started to put her hand in his pants pocket. "Look, if you're going to do that, you'd better have something else in mind," Jordan joked. Lila then used Jordan's foolproof tactic that he always used on her, pouting her bottom lip out and sniffing. "Hey," Jordan said with a laugh, "that's my puppy dog face. That's trademarked by Jordan Walker International. You can't intimidate me with that." Lila kept it up, although she could barely contain her own laughter. His heart was starting to melt, and he finally gave in. "Okay, I guess you should know anyway," he said. "I'm writing my vows for our wedding." "Are you really?" Lila said, extremely excited. "Yes, and I was so into it I didn't hear you come in," he said. "That's so sweet," she said as she hugged him. "I thought we were just going to use the traditional vows." "That's what everybody does," he said. "I love you so much more than that. And I think what I've written will show everyone my true feelings rather than just repeating the same old stuff that other people have said a million times. This will be the single most romantic wedding in the history of weddings, and I want all of those people there to know how much you mean to me." "Oh, sweetheart," Lila said with a kiss. "I just can't wait. Only 4 more weeks to go." "It feels like a lifetime from now," Jordan said. "It will be here before you know it," she said. "So that means I'd better get started on writing my vows. I just hope I can do a good job. I've never been much of a talented writer." "Me neither, but just say what's in your heart." "That's what I did," he said. "If that's the case, then the words should start flowing," she said. "By the time I'm done, it will be such a long speech someone will want the rights to publish it and turn it into a romance novel. I will be the Danielle Steele of vow writing. Does that mean I get to pose shirtless on the cover with my hair blowing in the breeze?" Jordan joked. "Only if I'm the woman you're holding," she said. "You will be, baby," he said as he held her tightly. "You're the only woman I'll be holding for the rest of my life." It was 8 o'clock the morning of June 23rd, and everyone at Jordan's parents' house were still asleep, except Jordan. He, his father, and Blake had spent the night there while Lila, Diana, and Marina stayed at his house. This was the first night since he moved in with Lila that they had spent apart, and he missed her terribly. He tried to convince her to let him stay at their house after the rehearsal dinner the night before, but Lila wasn't taking any chances. She wasn't the superstitious type, but for this, she stood her ground. There wasn't anything that was going to cast a cloud over their day. After spending hours talking and laughing with his dad and Blake, Jordan went to sleep around 11 but was up at 5. He was so anxious to get this day started. He was already halfway dressed when his father came in to wake him. "Jordan, the wedding's not until 2 o'clock. You still have 6 hours to go," Bryce said. "I know, Dad," Jordan said. "I just want to make sure I look perfect." Bryce could tell Jordan was jittery and said, "You're going to look just fine. Blake and I will make sure of that. You don't have to worry about a thing. Jordan sighed and said, I can't believe it's finally here, Dad. This is just so. He paused and said, I'm so nervous. I have played all of this out in my head hundreds of times. What I'm going to say, what I'm going to do. I just don't want to make a complete fool of myself up there. I know exactly how you feel, Bryce said. I was exactly the same way on my wedding day, but when I saw your mother coming down that aisle looking so beautiful, he shook his head and said, I still get choked up when I think about it. Sure, you will be shaky at first. That's human nature. But I'm telling you now, when you see Lila, you will be amazed at how your anxiety will just melt away, because you know this is the woman you love and want to spend the rest of your life with. Jordan heaved a huge sigh and said, Dad, I just want you to know that I'm honored to have you here to help me with all of this. You've been a great father, and for the rest of my life, I will be grateful for all you have done for me. Bryce, who had never been the emotional type, surprised Jordan when he saw tears welling up in his eyes. He then hugged his son and said, I love you, Jordan. I love you too, Dad. Bryce then took a deep breath and said, Come on, let's go get that lazy lump of a best man out of bed. We have a lot of work to do. But first, do you want some breakfast? Oh, Dad, Jordan said as he was holding his hand over his stomach. I have a lump the size of a bowling ball in my stomach. Please, don't even mention food. You should at least try and eat something, Bryce said. How about my famous banana pancakes? You could never turn those down. Well, Jordan said, knowing how much he loves his dad's pancakes, you talked me into it. I could try to eat 1, or 2, or 5. Bryce laughed and put his arm around his son. They walked down to the spare bedroom where Blake was sleeping. Yo, get up, man, Jordan said as he banged on the door. Huh, what? Blake said in a fog. He then looked at the time and said, Dude, it's only 20 after 8. Don't make me have to come in there. Jordan joked. Oh, all right, Blake said as he dragged himself out of bed. He opened the door with his eyes half open, and Jordan said, Good morning, sunshine. Ugh, Blake said, making Bryce and Jordan laugh. Come on, wake up, dude, Jordan said as he mussed Blake's hair. We've got a big day ahead of us. Dad's making breakfast, so make yourself gorgeous and come downstairs. Okay, just do me a favor, Blake said. What's that? The next time you make me your best man, make sure your wedding's at night, Blake said with a smile. It should be illegal to be awake before noon on a Saturday. I can't promise you that, Jordan said. This is my one and only wedding, so tell that to the next guy who has you in his. Now come on down and eat. Okay, I'll be right there, Blake said. Bryce and Jordan headed downstairs and looked outside. It was a bright, sunny day and Jordan's anticipation was at an all-time high. He heeded his dad's advice and was determined to make this day one he will remember forever. While Jordan, his father, and Blake were eating their breakfast, Diana was styling Lila's hair and trying to convince her to eat herself. Lila, you need to have at least a little something, she said. I can't, Lila said nervously. My stomach is so tied up in knots right now. I don't think even a pea could fit in there. I can make you some tea if you think it would help, Marina said. Thank you, Lila said. That would be nice. 10 minutes later, Marina brought Lila's tea out to her. She took the cup and saucer, her nerves so shaky she could barely hold them in her hand. Lila, keep cool, Diana said as she took her tea from her. Remember, this is your dream come true. Oh God, I know it is, Lila said. I just can't help being anxious. I want this day to be so special, especially for Jordan. Marina walked over to her, took her hand, and said, It will be, Lila. We have gone through so much planning together to make this day perfect. I promise you that with me and Diana by your side, we will do everything in our power to make this the most beautiful, exciting day of your life. You have made my son the happiest he has ever been, and as his mother I will forever be indebted to you for that. I am honored to be your soon-to-be mother-in-law. Lila was moved to tears by Marina's words and stood up to hug her. Thank you so much, Lila said. That means the world to me. Diana smiled dolefully and said, Okay, you too. Break it up. You're going to make me start with the waterworks. They all laughed, and Lila sat back down so Diana could continue with her hair. 3 hours had passed, and all Lila and Diana had to do was get into their gowns. Marina was already dressed in a lovely powder blue silk mother's dress, and was very excited to see how they were going to look. Diana emerged first, posing like a game show model to Marina's applause. Oh my, Marina said excitedly. You look fabulous. So where's the bride? Lila emerged next, wearing an ivory chiffon halter neck gown with silver embroidery and a ruffle flowing down the back. Her hair was pulled up and back with soft ringlets framing her face, baby's breath carefully pinned throughout the style. So how do I look? Lila asked. You are gorgeous, Marina said. Now I can finally see why Jordan calls you Angel Face. You look like an angel. Lila thanked her and looked at the time. It was approaching noon and the limousine was set to arrive in half an hour. "Oh my God," she said, her voice shaking as panic started to set in again. "Look at the time. Do I have everything? Where's my bag? Where's my vows? Holy shit, where are the rings?" Diana laughed and said, "Calm down, Lila. Your bag is right there on the chair with the vows inside, and Blake has the rings. Everything is under control. We still have some time before the limo comes, so sit down and try to relax." Lila sat down on the couch, and Marina said, "Wait. I almost forgot to ask. Do you have something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue?" "Well, my gown is new. My garter is blue, and I have an old buffalo head nickel my mother kept as a good luck charm inside my shoe. I don't have anything that's borrowed." "I think this will do," Marina said as she handed her a velvet box. Lila was breathless when she saw a pair of 1-carat diamond stud earrings. "Oh, Marina," Lila said. "These are just too valuable. I couldn't possibly accept them." "I insist," Marina said as she started to put them in Lila's earlobes. "Now you have everything you need." "Well, almost everything," Lila said. "All I really need now is Jordan." It was 1:30 when the guests started arriving at the church. Jordan peeked out the door from the room behind the pulpit and was amazed by how many people there were. "It looks like standing room only out there," he said to his father. Bryce then took a look himself and said, "Well, your mother did say she was expecting at least 100 people to show." 100? Jordan said, wide-eyed. "I didn't think we even knew that many people." "Well, between our family and Lila's there was more than we thought," Bryce said. Blake then looked out and said, "Any hotties in the house?" Jordan laughed and said, "Can you try and keep your hormones in check? We are in a church, you know." "Yeah, okay. But I can't promise you that I won't be chasing some lovelies at the reception," Blake said. Bryce heard a knock on the back door and opened it to find Marina standing on the other side. "Well, hello there," she said to her husband. "Don't you look handsome?" "And you look gorgeous as usual," Bryce said with a kiss. Marina then looked at Jordan, sighed, and said, "My goodness, look at you. My little boy is all grown up. I still can't believe it's your wedding day." Marina bit her bottom lip to keep herself from crying. Jordan walked over to her and said, "Mom, please don't cry. I'm emotional enough for the both of us. If you start, then I'm going to walk out in front of everyone with my eyes so swollen, they'll think Blake punched my lights out." Marina started to laugh, and Jordan said, "Now see, I knew that would keep you from crying." She hugged her son tightly and said, "I wish you nothing but the best in your marriage. Lila is a remarkable woman, and she loves you so very much. I hope your life together is blessed with love and happiness beyond your wildest expectations." They parted. Then she put her hands on his face and said, "And lots of grandbabies." Jordan smiled shyly and said, "I'll certainly try my best in that department." Marina smiled and said, "I love you, kiddo." "I love you too, Mom," he said as he hugged her one more time. "Oh," Bryce said as he looked at his watch. 10 minutes to showtime. I'd better go check on the bride." Marina and Bryce left the room, leaving Jordan alone with Blake to prepare. "You ready, Jordan?" Blake asked. Jordan let out a long, slow breath, smiled, and said, "I'm more than ready. Let's do this." As Blake made sure Jordan looked his best, Bryce made his way into the pastor's office to check on Lila. He knocked on the door, and Diana answered. "Well, ladies, it's about that time," he said to Diana, then looked at a smiling Lila and said, "Wow, you are a vision. You're going to have Jordan falling all over you." "Nah," Diana said. "He needs to save that for the honeymoon." Bryce chuckled and walked over to Lila. He reached his bent arm out to her, and she put her arm through his. "Let's go get you married, young lady," Bryce said with a smile. The three of them walked out together to the front entrance of the church to meet Marina and her nephew Andrew, who was the usher that would be walking her down the aisle. The church bells began to toll at 2 o'clock, and the opening strains of Pachelbel's Canon in D started to play. Jordan and Blake stood at the altar waiting for the ceremony to start. Jordan was still quite nervous, but he held his head high. He was bound and determined to keep his composure, reassuring himself that this was the one thing in his life he was the most certain of. The double doors opened, and Marina started to walk down with Andrew. She smiled as she made her way to the front, mouthing hello to some of her family members. She saw Jordan at the other end and winked. He smiled as her nephew sat her down in the first pew, then walked back to hold one of the doors open while his brother, Rob, held the other. Diana held one single calla lily as she started to walk down the aisle, and Blake's eyes lit up. He lightly tapped Jordan on the small of his back, which made Jordan start to laugh to himself. He looked back at Blake with a smile, then shook his head. Diana thoughtfully grinned at both of them, then made her way to her side of the altar. The doors closed as the wedding march began to play, and everyone stood up in anticipation of the bride. "Well, are you ready?" Bryce asked a nervous Lila. Lila let out a long breath and nodded her head, a wide smile on her face. The ushers opened the doors, and everyone was smiling and whispering to themselves how beautiful Lila looked. Jordan took a few steps forward so he could see her, and when he finally did, he was awestruck. She was wearing exactly what he had envisioned her to wear in his mind before he proposed to her, only he couldn't have imagined her being this unbelievably stunning. His mouth opened slightly, and he could barely catch his breath as she came closer to him. Lila saw Jordan's reaction, and almost immediately her eyes began to fill with tears. She took a deep breath to try and keep herself from breaking down and smiled at him lovingly. When she and Bryce reached the altar, the pastor let everyone know they may be seated. "Dear friends," the pastor began, "we are gathered here today to celebrate one of life's greatest moments, to give recognition to the worth of beauty and love, and to add our best wishes to the words which shall unite Jordan and Lila in marriage. Who is it that gives this woman to this man?" "I do," Bryce said, then kissed Lila on the cheek and sat down next to Marina. Lila handed her bouquet to Diana and turned around to face Jordan, holding both of his hands in hers while they gazed into each other's eyes. "Jordan and Lila," the pastor continued, "life is given to each of us as individuals, and yet we must learn to live together. Love is given to us by our family and friends. We learn to love by being loved. Learning to love and living together is one of life's greatest challenges and is the shared goal of a married life. All present here today and those here in heart wish both of you all the joy, happiness, and success the world has to offer. As you travel through life together, I urge you to remember that the true key to success, the true avenue to joy and peace, is to be found within the love you have in your hearts. I would ask that you hold that key very tightly in your hearts. As your lives continue to interweave as one pattern, remember it was love that brought you here today. It is love that will make this a glorious union, and it is love which will cause this union to endure." At this time, Jordan and Lila would like to recite the vows they themselves have written as a true expression of their love and commitment. Jordan smiled at Lila and started to read from his paper. "My dearest Lila, if someone had told me a year ago that I would be standing here today marrying the woman of my dreams, I would have never believed them. I have been to many places, seen many things, but have never been anywhere that I could truly call home. Then the day came when I first looked into your beautiful green eyes, and I knew my home was in your heart the entire time. Your beauty, spirit, and loving nature captivated me from the very instant we met. Today, as I stand here before you in the presence of loved ones and friends, I pledge my life to you. That woman who stole my heart last August, who every day continues to bring me more happiness than I could ever ask for. Now and throughout all eternity, I will love you without ceasing. I ask that God bless our marriage and provide us with the wisdom and strength to endure all the challenges and triumphs that life will most certainly bring us. It is with absolute confidence that I say to you now, and every day thereafter, I do." Lila wept quietly throughout Jordan's declaration of love, and was barely able to keep her voice from cracking as she read her own. "Jordan, my darling, there hasn't been one day in my life since we met that I haven't felt like the luckiest woman alive. In this crazy world we live in, where there are so many things we find ourselves unsure of, you are the one and only thing I am positively sure of. I have loved you with my whole being, and will continue to love you as no other woman could ever possibly love any man. I have often wondered what it will be like many years from now, when we are old and gray. Will we share extra blankets to keep warm? Will we count the stars from our front porch rockers? Dream older, wiser dreams, or be contented with the memories we have made? Of course I can't predict the future, but I can tell you what I do know. If we use extra blankets, I will still need to hold you close to me. If we sit in our rockers, mine will be right next to yours. And no matter how old or wise we become, I'll still want the feel of your hand in mine. I look forward to whatever the future may hold, as long as my future holds you. I love you now, and will love you until the end of time." Jordan's heart was aching after Lila's reading, and tears were running down his cheeks. Lila put her hand on his face and wiped them away. The pastor motioned for Blake to give him the rings. Blake took them out his pocket and handed them to him. Wedding rings are an outward and visible sign of an inward spiritual grace and the unbroken circle of love, signifying to all the union of Jordan and Lila in marriage. Jordan took Lila's ring and said while placing it on her finger, "I, Jordan, take you, Lila, to be my wife, to have and to hold, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, keep only unto you as long as we both shall live. Amen." Lila took Jordan's ring and said while placing it on his finger, "I, Lila, take you, Jordan, to be my husband, to have and to hold, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, keep only unto you as long as we both shall live. Amen." They then walked up the steps and stood on opposite sides of a table with a unity candle in the center. Jordan and Lila, the pastor said, these two separate candles symbolize your separate lives, separate families, and separate sets of friends. I ask that each of you take one of the lit candles and that together you light the center candle. They each took their own candle and lit the center one, uniting their lives as one. They then stepped back down and stood together, facing each other once again while holding hands. Let us pray, the pastor said. Dear God, look mercifully upon your children, Jordan and Lila, and be generous with them. Give them a sense of joy, excitement, possibility, and challenge about what they are undertaking here, the ever-unfolding and beautiful work of refining their spirits in the presence of each other's witness, of becoming bearers of your love. Give them peace of heart and strength of spirit, so they may honor the vows they make here today. Temper their hearts with kindness and help them to be sweethearts, helpmates, friend, and guide. And together may they meet the cares and problems of life more bravely. May their home truly be a place of love and harmony where your spirit is ever present. Bless their wedding day, we pray, and walk beside them through their life together. Amen. Amen, Jordan and Lila said together. The pastor then looked over the congregation and lifted his hand up to consecrate. The Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord shine his face on you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord look upon you in this favor and give you his peace. Amen. Amen, the crowd said quietly. Jordan and Lila, in so much as the two of you have agreed to live together in holy matrimony, have promised to love each other by these vows, the joining of hands and the giving and receiving of rings, I now declare you to be husband and wife. They whom God have joined together, let no man put asunder. Jordan and Lila both smiled excitedly, and the pastor said, Congratulations, you may now kiss your bride. Jordan took Lila in his arms slowly, looked deeply into her eyes, and kissed her tenderly. It is indeed my privilege to present to you, Mr. and Mrs. Jordan Walker, the pastor exclaimed. The crowd stood up, applauding and cheering. Jordan and Lila were ecstatic, and were all smiles as they started their recession, stopping a few times for hugs from their friends and family. After an hour of the customary photos inside and outside of the church, the newlyweds, his parents, and Diana and Blake all started to walk to the limousine. Lila squealed with laughter when she saw Just Hitched painted on the back window, and strings of cans and old shoes attached to the back bumper. Okay, who did this? She said, looking suspiciously at Diana and Blake. What? Blake said, Don't look at us. We were inside the whole time. The limo driver approached them and said, Well, the guilty party threw an extra $20 my way, so I can safely say it was me. This is so cool. But if it wasn't Blake or Diana's idea, then whose was it? She asked with a curious smile. Jordan looked around and started to whistle. Lila knew straight away it was him, and thought this was one of the most romantic things he had ever done. Oh, so it was you, huh? She asked as she put her arms around him. Yes, it was me, Jordan said. Don't y'all like it? I love it. She said, But I love you more. I love you too, Mrs. Walker, he said. They started to kiss passionately, making everyone start to hoot and holler. Oh, all right already. Diana joked. Get a room, will ya? Jordan and Lila started to laugh as they were kissing, and the six of them entered the limo to make their way to the reception. Once inside, Bryce uncorked a bottle of champagne and poured glasses for everyone. To the happy couple, he said as everyone lifted their glasses. May they have a long and fulfilling life together. Hear, hear, Diana said as she took a sip from her glass. She then noticed that Lila and Jordan had already swallowed theirs in one gulp. Whoa, Diana said, don't get too drunk now. You need to stay focused for the wedding night. Oh, there's nothing to worry about there, Jordan said. This little lady is in for one wild ride. Marina opened her mouth, pretending to be shocked, and said with a laugh, Well, I gotta say I agree with Diana. You want to make sure all your equipment is in working order. Oh man, Jordan said, blushing. Do we have to discuss this in front of my mother? Lila winked at Marina and said, He's never had a problem in that area before, so I don't think tonight will be any different. Oh, for the love of God, Jordan said as he put his face in his hands and shook his head. Everyone laughed loudly and continued with their celebration. The limo arrived at the reception hall, and the sound of music and laughter was prominent even with the doors closed. The driver opened the door for the group, and as they stepped out, Blake exclaimed, All right, it's time to get our party on. He extended his arm to Diana and said, Shall we, sexy? Diana chuckled and said, You smooth talker, you. She then put her arm in his, and they walked inside with the others following. The DJ saw their arrival and stepped down from his booth with his microphone. Okay, everyone, he said, it's my pleasure to announce the wedding party has arrived. Please take your seats. Everyone went to their tables while the DJ explained to the party how they were going to be introduced. Jordan had let Blake choose the entrance music, something Jordan felt would be suitable since Blake had the same taste he did. The DJ went up to the booth and the sound of Jet's "Are You Gonna Be My Girl" began to play. Please welcome the mother and father of the groom, Marina and Bryce Walker. Marina and Bryce walked in arm with wide smiles to the applause of the crowd and sat at the head table. Next, we have the best man and maid of honor, Blake Morgan and Diana Kelly. The two of them made their way in, and in the middle of their walk he turned around and yelled back at Jordan, "This next one's for you, dude." "Oh," Jordan said to Lila. I can only imagine what he chose. After Blake and Diana were seated, the hall got quiet. The DJ then said, "Will everyone please rise?" The crowd stood up, and the next song played was Queen's "Another One Bites the Dust." Everyone laughed, and Jordan looked at Blake and mouthed, "I'm gonna get you for this." Now, it's my pleasure to introduce to you for the first time in public, Mr. and Mrs. Jordan Walker. The crowd cheered and applauded wildly, and Jordan and Lila walked in. They paused in the middle of the hall and planted a big kiss on each other. This made the crowd even louder, and the newly married couple made their way to the head table. Jordan looked at Blake's goofy smile and couldn't help but laugh hysterically. Once everyone was seated, the DJ announced, "Now, we will honor the bride and groom with a toast from the best man." Blake stood up with his glass of champagne and said, "Okay, everybody, lift him up." The crowd lifted their glasses, and Blake started his speech. "Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Blake Drink. If you happen to see me later, please feel free to stop and say hello, and by all means use my full name." The crowd laughed, and Blake continued, "But seriously, I would like to welcome you all to the celebration of Lila and Jordan's marriage. It's a tremendous honor to have been chosen as Jordan's best man, and I have to say that this is my first time in this role. I wasn't sure of what the duties were, so I looked for some tips on the internet. I found one that said the best man's speech should only last as long as the groom makes love. So thank you and good night." Jordan and Lila looked at each other, then looked back at Blake and burst out laughing. I have been racking my brain trying to come up with some stories to tell about my friendship with Jordan. He and I haven't known each other very long, only since last September. In that short period of time, we have become like brothers. I couldn't think of a better man for Lila to marry. Well, with the exception of me, but that's neither here nor there. "That's right, stud," Jordan said with a laugh and put his arm around Lila. Well, the best story I could think of was the day Jordan told me about Lila. We were at school, and he said he was engaged to the woman of his dreams. He then told me it was his hot next-door neighbor, and I nearly fell out of my chair. I told him he struck gold, and after getting to know Lila these past few months, I was right. She is everything Jordan said she was and more. I still remember the look on his face as he was telling me how much he loved her. And here they are today, married for better or for worse. That's actually kind of appropriate, since Jordan couldn't have done any better and Lila couldn't have done any worse. "Oh, geez," Jordan said as he put his hand over his eyes. "Okay, before I conclude, I would like Jordan and Lila to participate in this speech. Would you two please stand up?" Jordan and Lila stood up and looked at Blake suspiciously. "Okay," Blake said. "Now Lila, please place your hand flat on the table, and Jordan, place your hand on top of hers." Jordan and Lila complied, and Blake said, "Okay, can we get a picture of this?" "Good, because I want Jordan to enjoy it as this will be the last time he will have the upper hand." "Oh my God," Jordan said with a laugh. "Okay everyone, I'm going to end on a serious note," Blake said as he lifted his glass higher. "I would like to thank Jordan for asking me to his best man and for his friendship. You can count your true friends on one hand, and he is certainly one of those. I wish you and Lila all the happiness, good health, wealth, and a long life together. May your love be modern enough to survive the times and old-fashioned enough to last forever." To Jordan and Lila, everyone lifted their glasses and took their sips. They all applauded and yelled out for Jordan and Lila to kiss, which they did to more hoots and hollers. After dinner, it was time for the bride and groom's first dance. Their song? Tracy Bird's Keeper of the Stars. The reception went on for 4 more hours, and it was one of the best days of Jordan and Lila's lives. Once it was over, they went home and celebrated their marriage their way, by making love until the morning light. The next afternoon, they left for their honeymoon, a 10-day Caribbean cruise. Jordan and Lila's marriage was indeed one filled with joy, love, and many blessings. They went on to have 2 children, a boy named Noah after Jordan's grandfather, and a girl named Penelope after Lila's mother. Jordan went on to become a highly successful attorney, and Lila was by his side every step of the way. They also endured their fair share of hardships, 2 of which being Bryce's passing 12 years later and Marina's 5 years after that. They were also overjoyed at the wedding of Diana and Blake. Lila had told her sister that her Prince Charming would show up and sweep her off her feet on hers and Jordan's wedding day. Little did Diana know that Blake would be the one who would charm her to the point to where she would break her cardinal rule of not dating younger guys, let alone marrying them. But she overcame her fears just like her sister did, and would end up giving Lila and Jordan 3 nieces to spoil. Over the years, Jordan and Lila's love remained steadfast and strong. They held hands everywhere they went, kissed as often as they could, and eventually became the proud grandparents of 4. They were happily married for 46 years, until Lila's passing at the age of 84. Jordan finally joined her in paradise 2 years later. Theirs was a love that stood the test of time. It was something most people thought would never last, but they proved them wrong 1,000 times over. Their legacy lives on in their grandchildren, who continue to tell the story of how their grandparents met and fell in love to their own children. They make it a point to let them know that no matter what obstacles they may face, true love can overcome anything. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.